Hello, and before you get started on this episode of Zapped to the Past, we would just like to say thank you to the following people: Andy Marsh, Cole Hutchinson, David Hearn, Sven Oser, 2000 DC, Gary Heather, Roger McNally, Joshua Dove, Mark Fletcher, Etienne Wettingfield, Niall Bullitt, Alexander Goslin, TJ, Matthias Aberg, and Paul Campbell. These awesome people have chosen to back our Patreon, and we are hugely appreciative of the support they offer. If you want to join them and get a mention in next month's shout-out, access to our Discord server and any special releases we put out and other cool stuff, then sign up by the 21st of the month at patreon.com/zappedtothepast for a little more than the price of a pint of beer. Believe us, it really helps us out. Now, please enjoy this episode of Zapped to the Past. Hello and welcome to episode 56 of Zapped to the Past. My name is Adrian Mills and I am joined as ever by Graham Raddings. If you haven't listened before, this is a podcast where we discuss games that were released for the Commodore 64. We are using the magazine Zap 64 as a monthly guide for the games to focus on, but we are in no way affiliated with Zap 64 itself. This week we're going to be starting our look at July 1987 and the first batch of games reviewed in issue 27 of Zap 64, along with what was also going on in UK music that month. So Graham, tell us what we got going on this week.
In this trip to the garage for an MOT turned ridiculously expensive request for a series of unnecessary repairs that aren't covered by a service plan of an episode, we grab our best foldable wizard hat and pack our trusty cat into its armoured ball as we take on Zark and his colourless clowns in the utterly stunning Wizball, go isometric 10-pin disembowling in the oddly tottery Strike, and climb into the cockpit of our best non-copyright infringing spacecraft for a 5-level bore-em-up snooze in the gruesome Gunstar. We also head off to find the 8-bit bookies at the blocky horse races, armed with money to lose and a faint wisp of hope in the gambly sports of kings, delve into the complex wormy world of the screensaver-turned-puzzle game in the completely confusing IQ, and shrink our hands, jump in another spaceship cockpit, and fly around endlessly looking for a rationale in the weirdly endless future game world of Deathscape. If that trip to the garage turned attempted robbery hasn't made you rage like a Hulk, and you think the free air freshener and 10% discount actually was a nice gesture, we also grab our coaching hat, jacket and loudhailer as we take on the role of head coach and play time trumpet American football in the brilliant Super Bowl Sunday, punch some turtles. No, I don't mean I need the toilet. Punch some turtles off their platforms, and generally spring and skid about uncontrollably in the weird ocean D-boot of Mario Bros, climbing yet another limited edition spaceship as Earth alerts go red to take on the deadly aliens in the god-awful bug-ridden Calamity UFO, before finally grabbing our best armoured sphere and jetting on a rescue mission in the sonically satisfying Eyeball. At last, some well-designed and innovative software we should have known at some point in 1987 would finally get some balls. Literally.
All right, good to know. Hopefully we've got some good games coming up. Maybe we've got some good ones, some bad ones. I don't know. It's a new month, so you know what that means, don't you?
What does it mean?
It means we need to look at the cover.
We do.
We need to
should,
look at the cover.
We must.
We must develop our bust. So I don't know. It's been a while. I think probably Gunship was the last one, but the cover is for the main game this month, and that is Wizball. So it's essentially it's just a Wizball cover, isn't it? Just there's the ball, there's the wizard, there's Mount Rushmore. There's some colours.
Yeah, I mean, for the uninitiated, that does look like an angry pea.
Which our friend Gary would know all about.
Exactly. I think they've taken some key graphics from the game, obviously.
Yeah.
But this is quite a nice cover, and it's one of the classic covers. It's odd. It's one of the issues of Zap. I remember owning this issue, and I remember that cover. I remember it really well. So it's funny. It's funny how certain issues just stick with you. And I remember that angry, grumpy-looking pea on the front, and the sort of wizard with the weird eyeballs and everything else. It's a classic. It's a bit of a classic cover. That it's a nice one though.
It is nice, yeah, and it's good to see a representation of the game because I suppose with something like Wizball, we're going to discuss quite soon, there's a lot of things to pull from that game, isn't there? So in order to make it,
he delicately traversed the notion that because it does look like that P is like pooping out colours, like green and blue colours onto Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
But it delicately traverses that to make it more ethereal than that. But that is what it is.
Ethereal PP.
It is. It's just a giant green P doing a dump. But if that's what it takes to sell the magazine, so be it.
That's true. So there you go.
We're back to £1, aren't we? We're back to £1.
Yeah, we are. We've paid our premium for our cover cassette from last month. And now we're back to the normal £1 for all your goodness you're about to read through. And there's talk of Arcadia, Mastertronics Arcade Connection, Touchdown.
There is
some, because we've got a lot of American football games this month, and also some sports games and some other stuff's going on. But there you go. It's it's all right. I don't mind that cover. It's not one of my favourites, but I know it's an iconic one.
Yeah, it is for reasons I'm not sure why. Really, if you think of some of the ones we've looked at in the past that are actually probably better drawn and more thematic than that, it is.
Yeah,
I remember that giant P. I remember it very well.
Yes, it's easily recognisable, isn't it? It's hard to forget a giant P peeing on Mount Rushmore.
Well, it's evil eyes. It's got dark, grumpy, evil eyes and a weird, angry mouth and no nose. It's like a P version of Voldemort.
Yes. And there you go. There's your review of this issue 27's cover. We've been Zapped to the Past. Thank you very much.
I thank you.
Thank you indeed. All right, let's move along, shall we, and get into our first game. Which, if you hadn't guessed,
maybe you did. Maybe you didn't.
We just talked about. Just to say that this episode of Zapped to the Past is bookended by balls. So
it is actually yes.
There's a lot of balls. We're gonna throw balls at you at the start, and we're gonna ball you at the end. So
you're borderline being teabagged by this episode.
You are, yeah. Don't fall over with this one in your mouth.
No,
that would be a hideous thing to have happen. So on that note, Graham, this is a big one. It's one of the big 64 games. So tell us all about Wizball.
Wizball is this is one of the big ones, isn't it? This is one of the big C64 super games, and perhaps the first of the really big, contender games, because of a lot of factors we're going to look at. It didn't get a gold medal, and that's something that is genuinely weird about this review. But it later they gave it Game of the Decade or whatever, and they gave it they over plaudted this game later, I think, to make up for the fact that they didn't give it a gold medal. But it's a sizzler, and that's pretty good, and it got 96%. So this is a sensible software game. So this is John Hare and old Cuddly Cricks, and this is their kind of answer to the kind of Nemesis, Gradius, shoot 'em up kind of game. It's their take on that, but of course it's got the classic sensible software spin. So this game is set in Wizworld, which is a colourful and happy place where you and your cat Nifter have been living in peaceful harmony for however long. This is a rainbow infused utopia, which is a nice thing. Enter the evil Zark. Upon discovering this peaceful Wizworld, they decide to destroy it and stamp out its brilliance. So boo, hiss, and down with that sort of thing, because that's not what we like anyway. So the evil Zark and his sprite, and is Zark the name of the baddie in Tron, by the way? Or is that Sark? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So the evil Zark and his sprites move into Wizworld and set about ruining it by removing all the vibrant colours and leaving it a cold, grey wasteland, or as we like to call it, Cleethorpes. Not really. That was a bit mean. So you are the Wiz, and you adopt your Wizball or your craft. You have your faithful cat, of course, Nifter, but now that's your Catalite, because they are now in some kind of armoured vehicle which you can contort yourself into. And you decide to take action, and you're going to give Zark and his sprites the boot and restore colour to the world of Wizworld, and peace and colour and happiness will prevail. So the game, it's kind of a half-breed shooter, half-breed collector. This is a clever game, and there's a lot of things to think about in this game, because this is a John Hare game, and this is a Cuddly Chris game. What's his full name? Chris
Yates, isn't it?
So this is a full-blown, sensible software game. So there's a lot of game to think about. So the Wizworld landscapes are comprised of 3 colors. And to restore them, you must shoot the red, blue, and green color bubbles. And then, once you shoot them, you collect the red, blue, and green chemical droplets. As you collect these, they are shown in cauldrons that exist at the bottom of the screen or the right-hand side of the screen if you're on the Spectrum version. On the far right of the screen is your target color for that particular level. So as you collect the droplets, you gradually achieve the amount required to complete the color. And then you've got to sort of navigate between 3 different levels for the colors. So there's red, green, and blue. So these colored bubbles don't exist on just one layer. You've got to kind of navigate your way up and down. That's done by kind of pipes and sort of navigational tubes that exist between the levels. So you've got to kind of, you're inside essentially a ball, a green ball, the one that's Grumpy P, essentially. And you have to sort of, I won't go into the sort of upgrades and things yet, but you basically got to shoot your way through these levels, shoot the blobs, collect the color things. If you collect enough of those, you're then taken through to a bonus stage. And in the bonus stage, you have to sort of, it's a bit like a shoot 'em up and you can collect extra bits and bobs. Eventually, you're going to end up in your lab. And in the lab, you can mix the colors. And when you mix the right colors and get enough of the red, green, and blue, or the red, green, or whichever the color scheme it is for that particular color you need, that is going to allow you to then complete that color for that level. There are 3 colors for each level, and there are 8 levels in total. So the whole idea of the game is that you've got to work your way through that logic. And obviously, it's not made easy for you. There are things to shoot, enemy things that shoot at you. There's all sorts of different droplets that you can collect. Some of those droplets that are released are not the same as the others, and they unleash things upon you. I'll talk about that in a moment as well. But you control this game with a joystick. You actually start the game a little bit like the Cauldron 2 kind of idea. So you start the game underpowered. And when you shoot the enemies, they drop these, what they call, I think, orbs, or actually, I think pearls. So they drop pearls, which are kind of green bubbles. And when you collect those, in the classic sort of Nemesis tradition, you can power up your craft, your Wizball, and that enables you to sort of gain more control over it. So the very first level is actually you bouncing around, you kind of dropping and bouncing to gravity. You don't have a lot of control. You can move kind of left and right, a bit like Cauldron 2. But once you've collected the first bubble and you waggle the joystick, you've got like an upgrade tree across the top of the screen, and you can sort of see which ones you've collected. When you get the first one, you can waggle the joystick, and that gives you more control because that allows you to kind of control the left and right as opposed to just sort of moving, rotating, and bouncing. You can sort of move it mid-flight if you like. Then if you get the next one, the anti-grav, basically means you can control the full thing up, down, left, right. So you've got to work your way through that logic a little bit. Now, once you've got that and you can always shoot, then you can start to sort of get into the game. You need to collect your catalyte, so you need to get enough bubbles to upgrade to get your catalyte. When you get that, you can then start to collect the color drops. Now, when you get that, you have to hold down the fire button so you can shoot the droplets as they appear. And these things appear like waves on I suppose the game's played out over a scrolling landscape, left and right scrolling landscape. And the enemies appear in kind of waves, a bit like you would in a classic shoot 'em up, really, in a side-scrolling shoot 'em up. So they kind of appear sort of, sometimes they appear in sort of different locations, other times they're in kind of wave patterns, but either way they appear. You shoot them, and then you can either collect the bubbles if they appear, or the droplets if that's what you're shooting. However, so you're navigating around this. You've got your Wizball upgraded enough to be able to control it. You control everything with the joystick. It's a very, very clever game in terms of the way you control it. So once you've got it to that sort of stage, you can then sort of get into the game, really. And the idea of the game is to get enough color from the color droplets to be able to get the right colors to upgrade the various levels to the point when you have eradicated and completed that level. And you complete the level when you've achieved the colors for that level of, like I said, of which of those there's 8. Obviously, as the game progresses, there's a number of factors that sort of bear into the whole idea of this. So firstly, you can upgrade based on the bubbles that you can collect in the levels. You can also, when you go to the bonus stage, and the bonus stage happens when you complete a color for a level. So if you get enough red and you collected all the red droplets, it will go diddly-diddly-diddly, and then you suddenly into the bonus stage, which is kind of almost like a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, really. You being the sort of Wizball shooting things and lots of things flying in. And it's kind of a survive as long as you can mentality in there. The longer you survive, the more bonus things you're exposed to, the more bubbles you're exposed to, and you can actually gain enough upgrades to make some of them permanent. So you can actually later, your ship can, even if you die, you sort of carry on with the permanency of the upgrades. So there's I suppose there's 3 parts to this: the left and right scrolling levels, the bonus sort of shoot 'em up stage, and then there's the part in the lab. There's not a lot to do in there. As long as you've got enough colours, your cat has a drink, you get out of your Wizball as a wizard, you actually see the wizard in person, and then it kind of mixes the colours and does all the kind of magic. So the game's played out like that. Now, this is essentially, it's a very clever shoot 'em up, side-scrolling shoot 'em up at heart. It borrows a lot of its upgrade logic and those kind of things from games of the type that upgrade, so the kind of Nemesis idea. There's a lot of Nemesis in this, I think. Is it Gradius, the name of Nemesis, its official name?
Yeah, they're both same. They're both correct.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that in this. So as you upgrade your Wizball and as you collect more of the bubbles, you can waggle your joystick at certain points, a little similar to the way Delta sort of displays its icons in little square icons. Mm-hmm. And so you've got these icons across the top. The first one is kind of thrust, and you've got anti-grav, and the second one is kind of the beam, which equips you with like a super beam. You've got like you get the sort of side shooting from the wizard and from yourself. You get the cat on the third one. The fourth one is kind of stronger lasers. The fifth one is kind of a sort of spray shot, which sort of shoots up and down in different sort of spray pattern. You get smart bombs, which obviously destroy everything on the screen, and you get shields. And as you work your way through the game, you can upgrade at certain points to these things. And it's in that kind of logic, it's kind of that shoot 'em up logic. So the graphics in this game, as you wait through it, obviously the aim of the game is to restore peace and balance and color to the worlds that you're in, of which, as I've said, there's 8 of those to do, and there's 3 colors per level, and all of the other things apply. This is a very, very clever game, and it's slick, well programmed. It's kind of faultless in that respect. This is almost like one of those games that's kind of it's one of those untouchable games because it applies such delicate logic to in such a brilliant way. And the graphics are all really good. Now, the graphics are all drawn by John Hare. The graphics are quite interesting. They're quite unusual. Now, the C64 version's got nice scrolling on it as well, really smooth scrolling. So you've got that kind of logic. The Amstrad version's flip screen, by the way, which is kind of a nightmare to think about. And the Sinclair Spectrum version's kind of slow scroll. So this is the de facto version, the C64 version. It's what it was kind of designed upon. Mm-hmm. So you're playing this game out. It's all kind of single joystick. There's actually multiple options to even play this game. So you can play as 2-player or multiplayer. And so one player can control the catalyte, collecting the droplets and shooting things, and the other one can control the whiz. There's such a clever array of game logic applied to what is essentially a shoot 'em up mixed with a collect 'em up. And you have to admire the logic of this. The graphics are drawn really well. They've got a really nice sort of odd, quirky quality to them, but they're genuinely quite fast. They move around the screen fast. Everything looks like it kind of should. It's a weird game in that respect. And I think that's one of the prevailing notions is this is nothing like anything else. This is genuinely, I mean, obviously it's borrowed its heart from shoot 'em ups and stuff like that, but this looks like nothing else around. This looks genuinely unique. It's kind of odd looking, really. And the logic of the game, to take it beyond a shoot 'em up, which it could easily have been, and to collect the color, to make the worlds more colorful, and to do all of that, this is genuinely a clever idea for a game as well. So you've got the graphics. This looks really nice. It's really slick. You can't fault the coding in this. You know, right from the moment maybe the loading screen's a bit of an exception because it's not the greatest loading screen in the world. But right from the inception of this game, from the beginning, you've got the look, you've got the feel. This is one of those amazing things where, a bit like Parallax, where things came together in the right way. You've got Martin Galway on the soundtrack. The soundtrack for Wizball is astonishing. In fact, all the sounds in Wizball are amazing. If you could say to somebody, to ask you to name a game where the sound effects and the audio fit the game more perfectly than any other, I think you'd be hard pushed to identify a game better than Wizball. It is absolutely 100% involved. The sound not just enhances the game, it's a key part of the game, of the way it sounds, the way the whiz sounds and the catalyte sounds and the music. You've got this amazing kind of electric guitar sound that permeates through. Such an amazing loading screen, an amazing game over screen, game over music and load. It's a combination of amazing factors that have all come together. Now, we spoke to John Hare about, a lot of the game stuff and a lot of his game design stuff. I've worked with John Hare before in different capacities. The guy knows how to make and construct game and game graphics and knows how games work. And if you combine that kind of acute game design ideas with somebody that can make those things happen in programming terms, and somebody who can combine that to make the audio work for that, you really have the kind of the trinity of things that can really come together to make something truly special. And it really came together here. Wizball, I think, is easily one of the greatest C64 games of all. No, it is truly unique, truly brilliant, truly colourful, and a magical experience. And with its audio and graphics and everything else, it all came together. The fact that they got $8,000 for this as a sort of startup payment and they never made any more money off that, it's crazy. That's from the Sensible book. Everything about this is just mind blowing. And this is all based, I think, originally they had an idea. I'm not sure if this idea came about even before Parallax, where they just had a bouncing ball kind thing, and they applied and they iterated on that design. And just this game was, John Hare describes this game design as an organic design. It sort of grew into the game that we came to know as Wizball. They didn't set out to make Wizball. It kind of grew into that. And it kind of shows in that respect. Now, Zapped gave this a sizzler. I still struggle as to why it got that. And maybe there's some background story about that. I don't know. I think this is genuinely amazing. It's one of the great 64 games. It's one of the great C64 games. It's truly amazing on this platform. It's better than any other platform, including the Amiga version. It's just genuinely amazing. Really clever game. I don't think even going back to this, and I hadn't played Wizball in quite some time, but even going back to playing Wizball after some time, I was straight into it. Didn't take me long to get into it. And it's just a beautiful gaming experience to play. It's genuinely fun, genuinely challenging, not so hard that it's impossible, not so crazy that you don't know what's going on at any given time. It's one of those game designs that came together and it really, really works. And I really, really like it. And so it was a kind of privilege to go back to this, one of the great C64 games. And take note, game designers and games, because it stands out. I mean, we have played a slew of shite over the past few episodes. We have, because the games that have been great have been 1 maybe out of 10, maybe even less than that. And then this comes along and just stomps its foot on them all, going, do this, do games like this, take genres that exist, shoot 'em ups, make them better, do really interesting stuff with them, but make it slick, make it work, make the code work. Have no bugs, and just make this game really, really interesting. And Wizball does that in buckets. It's a great, great, great game. It stands to me, and it's one of my favourite C64 games ever. So hats off to Sensible Software, John Hare, and co, because it is truly brilliant. And I would stand by that any day of the week. But what about you?
It should have been a gold medal part 2, isn't it?
How is it not a gold medal? I don't get it. I do not.
Discussion,
based on their comments and their scoring,
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It is. I mean, there's nothing else like it. There's nothing else like it before. It takes elements from a lot of other games, but it's without doubt one of the C64's crown gems. If you're gonna have a slew of your greats on the platform, then this is certainly up there with them. If I don't know whether it's top of it is a great game. Its design and execution are spot on. It looks great. It's polished to perfection, and as you've noted, it sounds amazing from the moment it starts to every small interstitial. Everything is just, really, really well polished and realized and fluid. There's some nice affordances like pressing the fire button to get through from the title screen quite quickly into the game again if you die. And I found playing it again, after a few false starts, because I was ready to play it and thinking, I remember this, but it's actually harder than I remember. So it took me, I had to sort of roll back my kind of personal expectations of how I thought I was going to play this till I kind of got into the groove, because it's slower than I remember, which I think is a thing. It's more strategic. But once I did, I found that I could proceed through a few levels. And yet this is, it is a shooter at its heart, but it's more than that, because of the way you have to work your way through the levels, working out where to get colour from to get the right mix and so on. The way that it controls, as you've noted, is brilliant. The use of the single, a single joystick and a single button to do everything. So waggling the joystick to activate the power-ups, holding down the fire button to then control the catalyte to allow you to go and collect the paint drops as they drop, without having to change anything. You don't have to press any keyboard buttons. There's no keyboard. It's all in the joystick, and it all works. And even if this was just that, even if this was just that single player game, then you would still have a great game. But there isn't just that. There's more ways to play it, and that's like great icing on a lovely cake, because it's got multiple modes of play. So there's 2-player, where one is sort of borrowing similar sort of idea from Druid, where one is the main wizard and one plays the cat when that gets activated. There are versus modes, there are versus team modes. It's kind of there's all this kind of extra stuff just to sort of add to longevity of what this could have just been a simple single player game. But but there's loads more to it. You add all them into it, and it's a serious contender for best game on the platform. It can be a little frustrating at times, if you get stuck in a bit where before you've collected any pearls, and you get stuck in some of the landscape, but that's quick, and you just carry on. And from time to time, I don't know whether this was played. There's a little bit slow down when some of the enemies let loose a hail of bullets, but it's minor quibbles. Who cares? It's a true gem of a game, and really is still my favourite Sensible Software game to this day of all their releases. I know there's big fans of stuff on the Amiga. I get
Cannon
it.
fodder, yeah.
Yeah, Cannon fodder, Sensible Soccer, Megalomania, all those kind of things that they do. But for me, Wizball was always the standout. Probably
on the C64, yeah, absolutely.
No, of all of them. It's the one I prefer from all of them for myself. And that's probably because I was more into the C64. I came to the Amiga late, so maybe there's a part of that. But for me, this was always the standout, and I just loved it. It should have been a gold medal. We can have that argument all day long. Well, we're not even arguing now. We're agreeing. We can have that agreement all day long.
It absolutely should have been. It's ridiculous.
And who knows why it wasn't? I don't. You don't. Only Zapped do. But it is what it is. It is a standout piece of software on the platform, and still stands up to this day. So go play it. Go play it because it's ace. It's as simple, really.
Absolutely, yeah. Just play it.
Yeah, and if you can play it with someone else, it's it adds another level of couch co-op. Couch co-op games were a rarity back then. There's not many of them.
Very few.
This I can only think of really of this and Druid maybe at this point in time, which aren't sort of competitive multiplayer. And that's a rarity. And I remember playing a lot of this. I can't remember who I played it with, but we played a lot of this with a friend back then. But and just being able to swap from the wizard to the cat. We just swap joysticks, and it was equally as fun for either of us. And so, a very clever game, a very well designed game, a shot across the bow of just, the as you said, the slew of shite we've had to sort of put up with and going, look, stop it. It's what this machine can do. And so, Wizball's great. There you go. Deserve to be on the cover for certainly.
Absolutely. And what staggers me upon reading the Sensible Software book is how little clearly Ocean regarded this game. I mean, I know they took a punt on it and they gave them, the $8,000 money up front, but they never got any royalties from this game. Like they never got any from Parallax.
Yeah,
and
shocking.
I find that incredible. It's absolutely. I mean, John mentioned it when we spoke to him. It's just incredible. It's incredible to me. But you know what? They were young guys, and $8,000 was a lot of money back then. But goodness me, me. And it was never. It's been out on lots of different formats. Like I said, I played the Spectrum version. I played the Amstrad version. I had a quick go on the Amiga version. There's a weird version for the French. Remember that French computer that somebody mentioned to us? What is that?
The Thompson.
Yeah, there's a version of Wizball for the Thompson. Wow. And I can tell you by a country mile, the C64 version is not just graphically and in terms of the way it works ahead of them, but orally with the Martin Galway music, it is just in a realm of its own. And the music is incredible for Wizball. It's mind-blowingly good.
Yeah, it's good. We can't give it to Martin Galway again at the end of this year, We can't.
No,
we'll be accused of favouritism.
Wizball is in difficult company this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. Wizball is an amazing score, and it is for this, but it's in tough company.
It is. We'll get to that at the end of the year.
It does suit this. But what struck me when I replayed this, I didn't realise how much audio there was in the game because the audio it's constant. It's like a constant audio. It's like a constant sort of chatter and noise, and that's such a clever thing to do.
And even like the interstitial bit,
it's amazing.
Yeah, and even like the interstitial bit when because we don't even talked about like the different coloured paint drops that have different effects, like extra lives and sending the cat.
I was going to say, I meant to come back to them. Yeah, the police raid, whatever it's called,
filth, and then that bit of music when the filth arrive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, I meant to mention those as well.
Yeah,
like I said at the start of when I started speaking about Wizball, there's a lot more than just a game that's a shooter, and that's what the amazing thing is to me about it. They didn't just go, they could have just made that shoot 'em up and with a little bit of this and that, but you get those little details. Those are the things that later it's those tiny details that really matter, and the Sensible Software guys know that, which is why Sensible World of Soccer is the best version of that, because it has all those nuances and details for football, which is why Cannon Fodder, it's the little details, all the little crosses, and when your team members die, they've got little crosses and celebrations on the hill of when they passed away, and the little upgrade trees to being sergeants. It's always been the details with Sensible sensible software that have made a difference. And this is kind of the beginning of that, because Parallax has a little bit of it, but this is where they really showed their stuff. I mean, goodness me, the coding chops on display with this game are incredible. Absolutely amazing. What a game. What a game.
Indeed.
And what a travesty that it's not a gold medal. Dumb, stupid. But later, like I said, it got, I think it's Game of the Decade or something, or Zapped, shoot 'em up, the best shoot 'em ever. There's some accolades that it got, in kind of we didn't give you a gold medal, but we're going to give you all this. And I think from what I've read, they were happy with that. But how is this not a gold medal? It's just ridiculous anyway.
Yeah.
There you go.
So there you go. Wizball. So we've started off with the ball. That's good. Let's hope things stay this high.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they will. Well, the next game's to do with balls. There's loads of balls in this episode. Loads of balls. So let's move on to the next ball-based game. All right. Yeah. So this is Strike, which I was quite disappointed was not the unofficial story of Arthur Scargill at the time. But there you go. This is $2.99. This is budget bowling. So budget bowling, huh? So the last one, it should have been a gold medal. This budget bowling has picked up 8%. There you go. So set expectations to stun.
Oh, goodness
so let's get into this. So we had some success with budget darts. This is from MAD. So Mastertronics added dimension, whatever it is. So can they do as well with this bowling game as they did with 180? So in 10th frame, which was the first of the bowling games we've kind of had, we had bowling from behind the bowler. And with indoor sports, we had bowling from the side of the bowler. So by process of elimination, there's only one perspective left to try. And here it is, isometric bowling, which, as you can guess, those words, what? They strike terror into your heart.
It shouldn't be. Those should never be in the same sentence.
Isometric bowling.
Isometric bowling it's just the very idea is ridiculous.
To me, it's a surefire winner. That's what I think. This is 10-pin bowling from an isometric viewpoint. You can play 1 or 2 player, and this is coded by Martin Howarth with visuals by Jeremy Nelson and music by Jason C. Brook. And strangely, it also has a playtesting credit given to Joanne Howarth. And I would argue that she could have told Martin that he needed to do a bit more work on this because, well, it's not very good.
A bit more work, you mean? Maybe people don't work. Maybe people don't just, do tiny, tiny little side steps when they're in a bowling alley.
Yeah,
maybe
true.
they don't.
Maybe they don't. So the action is seen from an isometric viewpoint with the bowler on the bottom left and the lane disappearing off to the top right. In the top left is a close-up of the pins, and the bottom right is a confusingly laid out scorecard, which I couldn't work out. So you move the bowler left or right to line up. So he does little itty-bitty steps. Dibby, 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 dibby to the right. Dibby, 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 dibby to the left. Dibby, dibby to the right. Dibby, dibby to the left. And then once you're happy with your position, you push forward to start running, and then you hold and release the fire button to throw the ball. Letting go too early sees the ball fall behind you. Letting go too late, and you throw it up in the air where it will land on your foot with a comical message of, ouch, my foot. Don't let go, and you get a foot fault because you'll step over the line. I couldn't figure out, there doesn't seem to be any spin involved, and it is very hard to get the timing of the throw. But once if you do manage to do it, you'll see the ball trundle down the lane, and I do mean trundle, and then it'll appear in that top left view of the pins and knock some pins over in that top left view. So now up to this point, the game is, I don't know if there was a problem here, but the game is absolutely silent.
No, I get the same.
And so the music will only kick in once you've done a successful bowl. But until then, it's just silence, no sound effects, no nothing. And then the music starts, and then the music cannot be stopped. It just keeps going. So I don't know. It's like a bit of triumphant music that you did a bowl, which is weird. So you can play 1 or 2 player. To be fair, though, the music only started when the computer did it because I couldn't get the timing right to start off with. So I threw it on my foot. I fell over, whatever. There doesn't seem to be any real skill involved because once you do figure out the throw in, it's fairly easy. There's also no real physics on the pins either.
No.
No, there's no sort of bouncing around. There doesn't seem to be any, and there's no real satisfaction from knocking any of them over. The game is really slow as well, with your player really slowly moving from side to diddy side, diddy as you line up. And it's functional. It works. It's there. I think 8% is way too harsh. I don't get 8%. that's putting this in a barely working category. It does work. It's just really boring, and it's a bit trying to play, and there's no real payoff or sense of real bowling. In comparison to 10th frame, it's nowhere near. Is it as bad as Is it as bad as good as that other one we played in indoor sports, whatever it was? It's probably on the same level, I thought. Neither of them are particularly good versions of the game, but 8%. This is way too harsh. I don't know. Did they miss out a 2 or something? It's not brilliant, and it's not as good as 180. It's not very good, because it's just dull and boring, and it's too slow. But it does work, and so for budget bowling, I'm reminded of what you said about. Do you remember Hole in One? Was it Hole in One? Which you said, is 10, it's 20% of leaderboard.
Yeah.
And this is kind of 20% of 10th frame.
Yeah.
And so in that respect, if you come at it from that point of view, I kind of see what you were saying about Hole in One in that respect, and it's it's budget, it's Aldi bowling.
It is, yeah. It's cardboard bowling, yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it is, little bowling. So little slow bowling. So it does what it does. It's not very good. Go play 10th frame at this point in time. But if you bought this at the time for £3, you might get some enjoyment out of it in 2-player, I suppose. But it's not going to set your world on fire. What did you think?
I thought it was horrible. I mean, I get it. It's $2.99 and it's a kind of a crappy review. I actually labelled it stroke more than strike. Just wait. My first comment was why? Why does this game exist?
Yeah, well, that's the question. Yes,
because bowling games have been done and better. Even the bowling that was in the
it's budget bowling, isn't it? We're not had one of those.
Yeah, it is, and the multi game that we played. But like you said, I mean, it was unpleasant and over brown. This game, there's a lot of brown in there. So much brown.
Isometric brown. It's the worst kind of brown.
Isometric brown. It's weirdly animated, with the main player sort of throwing the balls at the pins. But again, the same problem that was in the previous game, not so much in 10th frame. You need to be able to see what you're bowling at. That is the crux of 10-pin bowling, is that you can see the thing you're... Can you imagine if this was applied in real bowling? So you can't see what you're aiming at. You just have to bowl at some angle and just hope that you're going to hit something. It's just stupid. So it's horrible. The music was awful. I mean, it really awful when it occurred. Graphics kind of badly drawn. That sidestep. It's just like... But there is sort of animation. It's $2.99's worth of 10th frame.
Yeah.
And, it isn't great. I think 8% is ridiculous for this. It's super harsh.
Yeah.
It's not in the, this worst games that get higher scores in this episode and this issue of Zapped. What it is, it's just a very poor bowling game. But you can bowl and it does track the score and the physics is stupid and everything else. But exactly the same logic that I apply to the golfing game, as I've written in my notes, does apply here. You pay for what you get.
Yeah.
If you want to play a really more, a more accurate bowling game that's got less pizzazz, maybe a little bit, but it is bowling, then 10th frame's the game for you. Pay the $8.95, $9.95, whatever it is, and go for that. If you just happen to have £3 and you fancy a bowl and you like the colour brown or stripy brown and yellow, this is for you. Just don't expect.
It doesn't like stripy brown and yellow.
Stripy brown is surely a player in this game. Just don't expect great things for your £3. Expect what you've got. Does it function? Yes. Is there bugs? I didn't encounter any, but it doesn't mean there weren't any. It just wasn't great. It wasn't very good. It wasn't very, but I don't like bowling in particular. I don't like this kind of bowling. I've already played 10th frame. This is the equivalent of another golf game coming along. It's £3, so, but 8% is a bit harsh. Come on.
It really is. I don't know what they're on it yet.
I don't like it, but I don't like it that much. I don't hate it that much, rather. So, that's what I thought. You pay for what you get.
Yeah, absolutely. Strike. Yeah, stroke, whatever. Yeah. There we go. That's strike. Yeah, 8%, way too harsh. It's £3 bowling, isn't it? That's what it is.
Absolutely. It's Aldi. It's Little Bowling, Netto Bowling, whatever you brand it as. That's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Heron Farm Foods bowling.
If you're paying £3 for a game, don't expect a lot of physics.
No,
don't.
You're gonna because you got if you split it up, what you got got graphics are going to take up so much of the budget. Sound is going to take up so much.
Put it this way:
UI, you've only got like 50p left for the physics. It's not going to give you much.
If you want to take a rocket to the moon, if you pay £3 for that rocket. It might not get you there, but it might lift off the ground.
It might do.
And it might not be how the journey might not be what you want, but you know.
Well, to be fair, if you did it in this version, you wouldn't actually be able to see what you were aiming at for this rocket. So you wouldn't know if you were aiming at the moon. You just had to sort of vaguely guess.
True. Well, it's £3 worth of bowling. So it's actually it's marginally cheaper than going actual bowling. So just think about that.
Yeah. You won't. You crazy kids.
You won't do that with your stripy shoes.
You won't think with your overuse of stripy yellow. All right, there we go.
Brown stripes.
Oh, that's strike. Let's get into the next one. Let's move on. Stroke, yeah. Oh dear. Move along quickly. Graham, you're going to tell us all about what it's like to fly a Gunstar.
Gunstar. Okay, so this is coded by RMK. He went on to make nothing else. This is the only game he made. This is Gunstar. Graphics are by Peter Goff, who was the guy that did the Mad Nurse Code. And the graphics are Star Paws later. And the music was by Peter Clark, who did the music for Head Over Heels, amongst others. So there you go. Gunstar, by the way, is the name of the ship flown by Alex Rogan in The Last Starfighter. I don't know if you know that. So he flies a Gunstar. Yes. So the last Starfighter is a Gunstar. So that's where that came from. So in this game, Earth is under the attack. Earth's always under attack from these enemies, isn't it? Always. And luckily, we've created a fleet of short-range pulse fighters. We recreated these on the moon. Handy, that. Very handy. Handy. You're a member of these Gunstar attack fleets. So it's not the name of the ship here. It's the name of the fleet. And so you must, for reasons, navigate and battle through 5 levels. Those 5 levels are the redundant spaceship wave. I've called them these things. The annoying meteor shower. An alien command ship, and the command ship, by the way, is another name taken from The Last Starfighter. I'm guessing that RMK really liked The Last Starfighter here, and in that part you got to shoot the turrets. The alloy robot, ALLOY, in capital letters, but not explained why. So the alloy robot, and in that you got to shoot the turrets again, and then you get the docking stage, the mysterious and stupid docking stage that serves very little purpose other than to just make you die. But anyway, that's what it is, and in that you have to sort of fly and touch the back of the thing, and you can refuel, and on you go to the next. So this is a shoot 'em up, and so essentially you've got 5 waves of things to either shoot at, shoot with. It's very repetitive. If you die at any point in any of the cycles in this game, you will start at the beginning of the cycle, so you go back to 1, even if you're at stage 4. So if you get all the way to 4, you die, you're back at 1 again. That's really annoying, isn't it? That's pretty annoying, that.
Yep.
So this is graphically passable, but otherwise utterly redundant shoot 'em up that sits in the most boring thing to code file for me. There's absolutely no thought to this at all. It feels like someone had this on a disc somewhere and thought someone might buy it for £2, so let's just release that. And people probably did. Not me, though. Not me. It is a dull, uninteresting shoot 'em up. And the review and the criticism of this, because it got 38%, was that it was too simple to be around at this time. And it was reliant on just stupid, repetitive logic that made no sense. And it wasn't very good. And I agree with that. It's a dull game. The graphics aren't what you'd call great. The story's very basic. There's nothing. It's just, it's a shoot 'em up game made and clearly just without any kind of thought, to make a shoot 'em up, just have stuff flying around, just, shoot. What's the next bit? I don't know, just put an annoying meteor shower in it. I don't know what it is. And that is really annoying, by the way, that bit. The graphics, like I said, I suppose they're okay. They're passable enough in this. They're kind of a weird high-resi kind of vibe. But just generally, this lacks the due care and attention of a really good shooter. We had River Raid in the last episode. That's better than this, and that came out years before this. So, and it's at the same price. So if you're going to get a shoot 'em up, would you buy Gunstar or would you buy River Raid? Well, my money's on River Raid, and I know it's older, but it's better than this. So that's my take on it. There's not much more to say about it because it's such a redundantly, stupidly simple game. There's not a lot to it. What about you?
Yeah, so it's a stupid and punitive multi-stage blaster type thing with single color sprites and dull gameplay. So the first stage sees you shooting simplistic enemy fighters. The second stage dodging crappy asteroids that move at random speeds, so it's very annoying. The third stage sees you fighting a mothership, and then I don't know, every time you die you're back to the start, and that really put me off. So when I die at the mothership, I'm like, you know what, I'm done. I'm
Killer.
The first 2 stages, I'm not enjoying any of this. It's stupid, and he's only done, and that's that back to the start. It's only done because there's only 2 more stages after that. So there's no depth to any of this. The visuals are dull, the sound's uninspiring, and the gameplay is short and rubbish. This reminded me, I don't know if you remember, of that. What was that game called? I've got it here. Hang on a minute. What was it called? Moon Shuttle. Do you remember Moon Shuttle?
Yeah.
The old one we looked at when we looked at the Cheapest Creepers lot, and there was that one where you had that sort of, you were that space shuttle, weren't you? And you had that multi-stage thing, and you had to go through the asteroid.
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, except that was, that only got 13%. It's got 38%.
Passable.
That was, I didn't mind that one so much. This was really annoying, and I didn't like this at all. However, I have noticed that, and I've got no more really to say on this. It's, I'm not going to spend time on this because it's crap. But this could have been made much better if it was called Gunstar. This stuff writes itself. If we had some kind of bread-based, vertical scrolling shoot 'em up, just like we had Bunship, and now we've got Gunstar. I'm all for this bread-based stuff. So that would have made it much more interesting from my perspective. But Gunstar gets a big no from me. I don't like this.
And me.
It feels crap. It just feels like really, because there's no. It was also like that other one we played. That who was it? The Odin graphics one where you couldn't get past the first. You had to get past 3 stages or whatever to get to the platform in second stage.
No,
iCups. Was it iCups?
Yeah.
It's like that. It just these badly designed drivel. So no, this gets a big no star from me. That's what it gets. No stars. So there you go. Gunstar. Don't like that, do we?
No, we don't.
Not. We do not.
Gunstarfish.
No starfish. No. No. No one wants that.
No.
Especially, how about bun starfish?
No buns in that. None.
No, none. Let's move along quickly. Let's get into a little bit of something very different. Because our next game is very different indeed. Our next game is Sport of Kings. Yes, Sport of Kings, another game from, I think it's from Mad, $2.99. And so let's all go to the races, the horse races, and lose lots of money or make some. Who can tell? I don't know. This is what this game is. So one way to find out. So let's play Sport of Kings and bet your shirt on a nag. There you go. That's all I know. That's my racing patois.
There it is.
It is. So I'm like John McCurrick has been reborn. So
God, I hope not.
He had massive sideburns, didn't he?
He
Anyway,
had many problems. He called his partner Booby.
Well, term of endearment for some. Anyway, this is from the team. This is weird. This is because this is from the team that gave us Street Surfer, the eco-friendly spit-fueled skater game, and they also do the upcoming Living Daylights conversion. There you go. So this is Sculptured Software, and David Barbour, he handled the C64 conversion. So what is Sport of Kings, right? So this is an icon-driven day out at the horses. So there are plenty of options here. You can have up to 5 players. You can have a choice of 25, 50, or 75 horses in the selection. And you can choose whether the races are affected by the jockey, the going, which is going from obviously from soft to firm, and even the horse's weight. So you can have all of those affect how the races play out. Yeah,
fat horse doesn't win race in Fat Horse Shock.
Well, you never know. It could just barge its way through. Once a fat horse gets going,
you mean a fat horse? Yes, that's what I meant.
Once a fat horse gets going, they're very hard to stop.
They're very hard to do anything with. Yeah,
that's true. So once you've done all that, once you've picked all those variables, you can choose to auto run a number of races to get some stats into the system. So this gives you some form, basically. And if you do that, then a series of races will play out with the different horses in. You won't be able to bet on them or anything. It's just essentially what it's doing is sort of simulating the first load of races, so you can then get some stats going. So once all this is done, and you've named who's playing, you are greeted with a screen full of icons. You can save the game, load it. You can go bet and go race. You can check the form of the horses in the race coming up. You can check how much cash you have. There's a weird kitty which I didn't quite understand, but I'm just going to elide that. There's money in a kitty which kept going up. I don't know what it was. You can check who's racing next. So you check the whole race and then you can check the form of the horses, basically. You can quit or you can print. You can actually print off race or form cards, which is kind of weird. So this is actually allows you to print stuff off if you want to do. I don't know what you'd print it off, but there you go. It's all pretty self-explanatory. You see, the sequence of events is you see who's racing. After a few races, if you've simulated ones at the start, you check the form. So who's racing? How did they place? What did they do? Are they good on, who's the jockey who's riding them? What's their weight? Are they good on soft or firm ground? Whatever. Then you go and bet. So you work out who you want to put your money on. You go bet. There's a guy there's a graphic representation of a sort of what are they called? Someone who takes your bet at a race course. I don't know what they're called. But he's standing there and he's there. A bookie, yes, a bookie, that'll do. So you can bet, you can win, you can do a bet to, horse coming first place, you can place, you can do each way, and there's loads of other types of bets. Now, I don't fully understand all the types of bets you can do, but there's lots, forecast, all these kinds of different things. So I think it means you can pick more than one, but I don't know. Once you've said which one you want, you pick who to bet on. So what type of bet you want, you pick what horse you want to bet on, and then you put in how much money you wish to bet, and then the race is played out. So the way the graphical representation of the race, you have you've got kind of a tracking side-on view of the race, with all the horses moving from left to right. It's not that dead fast. They just sort of, they're running. Some will sort of shoot out in front, and you find yourself shouting at your own horse, try and get it moving. On the right, there's a sort of visual representation of a commentator, and there's also a list of the horses underneath that commentator, so you can see, where your horse is in the race, the horses that are racing, so you can keep track of it. It's quite easy. Once the race is done, you either get your winnings or you don't. If you've lost, you've lost. So if you win, then the bookie looks annoyed, and if you lose, he looks happy, which is kind of a nice touch. And then essentially you just repeat the process. Now, there's something weirdly, strangely addictive to this. And I think that's called gambling.
It's called gambling.
It's called gambling, yeah, I know. But we've knocked gambling games before for there being no sense of skill. It's all just luck and it's all just pointless. But although the single player game in this is a little dull, just playing on your own, I do remember playing this back in the day with my brother, and we used to have quite a bit of fun with this, because in multiplayer, when you're betting against each other, all these things do come alive a lot more as you try and picking the winner in the next race. The touches around the edges are nice, obviously with the save load. So if you're midway through a season and you don't want to lose the stats, you can save them and then load it back in at the beginning, so you don't have to redo all that stuff from the beginning. With the form of the horses growing over time. And the option to print is an old little, side thing, but it's quite nice, I guess. The visuals are perfunctory, but they're easy to tell what they are, and that's the good thing. This game is very easy to read and easy to play. The icons are very simple. You don't have to guess what they are. They're very, clear what they are. And in the actual betting and racing stuff, it's easy enough to know what to do. You just click on the number of the horse you want, and that's it. So I found this an enjoyable gambling game because there is some semblance of skill in this, which was missing from the other ones we've played, in the way you try and judge from the form book who is going to win the next race. And that adds a layer to this that is missing in the games that we have played. Like, what was the other one? The poker game, Samsung's Poker, and all the video poker, and Las Vegas or whatever. And the craps ones and stuff like that. The weird craps ones where everyone's looking shiftily to the side or whatever, at the weird hand movements. There was no skill involved in any of them, and nothing. It was just a game of nonsense. In this, there feels like there is some kind of trying to figure out, where it's going to be one of these who wins this next race. So just like horse racing and anything like that. Just like that's why people like horse racing, because of all those things. And that seems to be present and correct in this. So I thought this was good. It's 61%, which is probably roundabout right. It's in the 60s somewhere. But I think if this gets its hooks into you, and if there's a couple of people around playing it with you, this is an enjoyable way to spend a bit of time, because it's it's just a series of races, but trying to win money, guessing who the next horse race is going to come from. It's just fun and it works, and that's a good thing. So I enjoyed my time with Sport of Kings. What about you?
Yeah, it's a gambling game, isn't it? And I'm not always struck on them. I don't really like these kind of things. If you like gambling and you like horse racing, this is going to fit with your kind of brain waves, isn't it? Your brain patterns. I'm not a gambler. I once bet on a dog race and the dog died instantly. It dropped dead. It dropped dead. So, and I don't really like horses either. I think they're dangerous at both ends and crafty in the middle, and I like watching them drown. So there's no affinity for me to like this. I don't like gambling and I don't like horses. So there's nothing for me in this game. However, there's a reasonable array of options, and the graphics, while they're quite simple, they kind of work in the context of what this is. It's £3 at the end of the day. So what I felt was that, I'm not into this at all, but in a good group of people, I think the solo game for this is kind of its weakest link.
Yeah, absolutely.
You might want to sit there and gamble on digital horses and stuff like that. Maybe that's that's your thing. But if you've got, two or three people and you're betting against each other and all the rest of it, so I think there's something there for you, and I think it represents those things very well. The logic of the game and the way it works and the way they've constructed it around the icons and things is quite nice, because you can just get on with what you need to get on with, and the sort of the dialogue and the terminology, and it's very familiar to those people that really into this kind of thing. So it's actually a risk-free horse racing simulation for £3, and I reckon it's odds on you're going to like it if you like horse racing. But yeah. But it's not for me, and perhaps it needs a bit more excitement. I think that's the one thing I would say, that even for £3 this game kind of lacks. But I don't, my jollies aren't, my endorphins aren't pumping through my brain when my horse is a nose ahead of its nearest competitor. But if you are that kind of person and this kind of thing is your folly, then you are going to like this. And it's not a bad version. It's £3. I think 61% for this was a little bit harsh. Yeah. Does this represent a good horse racing game? Yes. Is it good for the money? Yes. So I don't know. Either way, it's not for me, regardless of what they gave it. So
I mean, I found myself like I did when that crappy football game, whatever it was we were playing, FA Cup or whatever back in the day. I did find myself when the races were coming and my horse was neck and neck with another one going, come on. So it worked on me because I'm that kind of person where I get ultra competitive very quickly.
I can imagine.
So, I like this. I thought it was fun. And it's simple, like you said, and it's £3 and it's a bargain. So, yeah, good stuff. All right, we've got one more game. So let's move along. Let's race on out of the Sport of Kings into the next one. Okay, so is this a game?
I don't know. I did try. I loaded this up. I was impressed with the initial graphics. I didn't have a joystick at the time, so I had to kind of rely on emulated joystick controls. And from that moment forth, it was a visual anomaly, which I couldn't quite understand what was going on and what I was supposed to be doing. It got a great review, but maybe you got more out of it immediately than I did, because I'm not sure it was even working properly. So that's the extent of my time with it. But please do describe if you got more out of it.
Yeah, so this is IQ. This is £9. It's got 84%. And essentially what this is this a repackaged, re-released, rebadged version of the 1983 EA game that was called Worms, with a question mark. So Worms. So that's what this is. Okay, I'll try and describe this because it's a strange game concept. It's kind of like the game Squares, where you kind of have to surround a square. You draw lines between the dots, and when whoever draws the last one that completes the square gets that square and wins that point. Except, so imagine that kind of concept, but with hexagons drawn between dots, and you get a point for being the last one to draw a line from the central dot out to the 6 dots around it. Not by surrounding it, just by those things. So that's how you get a point in this. Okay, so that's the best I can do to describe this. So what the screen is, this loads up and there's just a screen full of dots. And then at the bottom of it, you've got a series of, you've got this, essentially you've got like there's 4 players, so there's 4 things that can play this, and up to 4, so you can have it 1 player or 4. Now there are multiple ways of playing this, and what you essentially do is you give they're called sails. So there are these the things that move from dot to dot are called sails, and they can have 4 different types of AI. Is it 3 or 4 different types of what you can set them to? You can turn them off so they're not playing. You can set them to new, where you kind of have some control over them. You can set them to auto, where they decide themselves on what the best move is, the next move to do, so the next grid space to sort of move to, based on how they've learned what's going on around them up to that point. Or there's wild, where they just do whatever the hell they want. Now, the whole point of this is, I don't know, this is really hard to describe, but once the game gets going, if you've chosen new, you kind of have to tell the line which way to go. I couldn't figure out how to do that. I couldn't work out how to move it around, so it was always just moving in the same direction. Once you've done that a couple of times, it will learn that that's what you want it to do, so then it will just automatically go off. If the other ones you set to wild or auto, once you've kicked it off, they'll all start running together. So what happens is you kind of get this weird sort of visualization of these 4 different colors. You've got red, pink, blue and green sort of lines being drawn all across the screen in quick succession as these lines work out the way that they're supposed to go. Now, I did even have a look at the manual for this, but the manual gave me no help. It kind of told me what I already knew, but didn't actually tell me how to control it. And this was the problem I had with it, because I didn't know how to actually control this or move anything. Whenever I pressed the key or pressed the joystick, it just moved. It just started. And I was like, no, I want you to go that way. I want to try and change the direction you go in. So I just felt that this was kind of some kind of weird semi-interactive screensaver type thing that you would have seen, like, you know, maybe 20, 30 years down the line, you know, if you left your computer on for a while and the screensaver kicked in. And it's just a load of lines being drawn. But then at the end, it does actually give you a score, because every line you get, every one you get, these numbers appear above the 4 colours at the bottom of the, you know, auto or wild, where the players are. That's the kind of the players. So it is tracking score, but I couldn't actually figure out any way to be any good at it. It just seemed to be all haphazardly kind of random, and they just kind of went around. And if you set it all to auto, if you set them all to auto, they'll just go off on their own. You can just sit there and watch it. It's kind of some weird visualizer thing, and you know the review was really positive about it, and they were all like, "Oh, this is brilliant, and it's a really strange piece of software and all this." And yes, all that's correct, but is this a game? And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, that it's, you know, not a game or anything, but I just don't, I can't really sort of pass this in relation to other video games, because I didn't actually ever feel that I was in control of anything. I felt as much in control of this as I did with that screensaver we had for Tubular Bells. And maybe I was missing a trick, maybe there's something I wasn't doing, but I just felt that there was the new one where I was supposed to be able to control which direction it went. I couldn't ever do it. So I don't know. IQ, you know, it's a rebadged Worms from 1983. If you know that game, then you'll know this, but I can't really describe it any other way apart from just, you know, have a look at it or maybe have a play. And if you can get it to work, then you might get something out of this, but I don't think you're going to get much out of this. It's just a weird sort of, it's one of those weird pieces of software that, you know, someone made as a bit of a laugh in 1983 to sort of as a sort of jokey experiment, or let's try this and this will be really cool, man. Oh yeah, that's brilliant. And that was that. That was my take on it. I don't know if it's any more involved than yours, really.
Well, I just thought it was a boring screensaver that I'm not even sure I was controlling anything, but I also wasn't sure it was working. And that was kind of what made me sort of take a step back, and it looked visually interesting, but you know, anything can be visually interesting when you think about it. So I wasn't sure. And I just wasn't 100% convinced that what I was doing was making any difference to what it was doing. I wasn't even sure if I was in demo mode. So I thought, I don't know what is going on. I looked at the link that you put in with the instructions for Worms, and I just couldn't make head nor tail of what it was really trying to get me to do. And I realized, you know what, these more ethereal, cerebral maybe games, they're not for me. You know, give me something to shoot at, give me something I'm controlling to run and jump, and all of those things. But you know, don't do this, because it's just not going to appeal to me. And these kind of games, the Jeff Minter games that are really, you know, colourful and crazy and have this kind of really you know, stroboscopic logic, for want of a better description, those kind of games, they don't appeal to me, and those ones do have almost at least a realm of coherence. This one was just, I'm not sure what it was, just colour patterns and lines, and no, it wasn't anything I could quite get behind, so I didn't quite get anything from it.
Indeed. I think that's about the best we can say, because I'm the same.
Yeah.
So there you go. Try it if you want it, but it's weird.
It's an experiment, I think, and if you want to be part of the experiment, go for it. I didn't.
No, I didn't either. Not really, when it came down to it.
No.
Anyway.
No.
There you go. Okay, so that's the first lot of games we've got in this section. That's all them. It's like Wizball, Stroke, Gunstar, Sport of Kings, and The Strange IQ. So stick around, stay with us, whatever, because we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back where we'll be looking at music in July 1987. So see you in a moment.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Growing up in the 80s is a chore for Sarah, who feels misunderstood by her parents and badgered by Reese, her bothersome brother who incessantly prattles on about his treasured computer games. When Reese tells her one of the games tried to pull him inside the computer, she laughs off his fanciful fib. She waggles the joystick to disprove his fairy tale and is pulled into the computer. Now trapped in games she'd never had any interest in playing, how can she possibly beat them? With the help of feisty Nell, another trapped player, can Sarah find her way back home, or is it game over? An evil madman, a hostile planet, bloodthirsty robots, a never-ending throng of karate experts, and relentless digital soldiers will do their best to ensure Sarah never escapes. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, find out if there's a way out of the beige bread bin of betrayal for Sarah in Escape from the Commodore 64.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. Let's get into music. A lot of music to get through as per normal. And so let's see what was going on. Let's start with our singles as per normal. It's a Sin, Pet Shop Boys is the number one for the first 2 weeks.
This is the number one signals. The number one signal.
Yeah. It's the number one singles,
I'm going to say it's singles, yeah.
So this is the number one single. So It's a Sin is the number one single for the first 2 weeks of July. We talked about that last time, didn't we? It is written by Vulcans, as you noted.
Yes.
Yeah.
He purged all of his emotions with that song. Yes,
he did. He purged them all. I have purged all my emotions. Replacing that in the third week of the month was Who's That Girl from Madonna.
It's not a great Madonna song, that. I don't know how it got so high in the chart. But
it's just Madonna, isn't it? Anything she releases at this point is just going straight to the top.
But Who's That Girl by the Eurythmics is a better song than that. But there you
go. Yeah, I guess. That was there for 1 week, and then it was knocked off by La Bamba by Los Lobos.
Oh, yes.
So basically what we've got there is we've got two number ones from films, haven't we?
Yes, we do.
Because Who's That Girl is from the film Who's That Girl, and La Bamba is from the film La Bamba.
It is, yes.
Yes. So
luckily, the video that they made for La Bamba won what is some would argue was the stupidly titled 1988 MTV Video Music Award for Best Video from a Film. La Bamba won that.
That's a complex award.
And it's when there was that short period in the 80s, wasn't there, when they came up with these really weird awards. This is the award for the guy that appeared in the background on the thing that was the background of the other thing. Just stupid awards. La Bamba, by the way, is actually a Mexican folk song. So.
Oh, okay. Did you know from the state of Veracruz?
Yes, it is from there. It is.
Well done. There you go. That's it. That's your number one singles. Number one albums. First 2 weeks. No change from last time. Whitney with Whitney Houston.
She's still there, dancing with someone.
Yep. Damn those critics. She was eventually replaced the third week by introducing the hard line according to, and that's Terence Trent D'Arby.
No, don't like. I'm not a big fan of Terence Trent D'Arby. It's very schmoozy, No, it's just not for me.
It's I always found it's 80s dinner party music, innit?
Oh, totally. Boop, boop, boop.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, boop. Is this Terence Trent D'Arby you've got on? Wow, you're cool.
It is, yeah. We're listening to it on my new CD player.
So that conversation never happened in my house or yours, by the way.
It didn't. It went, what's this shit? Turn it off.
Turn that shit off.
Put something else on, God's sake.
Put Terence Trent Nottingham on.
Oh, that's terrible. River Trent does run through Nottingham.
Yes, exactly. That was the crux of the joke. Well done.
That was, yeah. I just did a Radio Wolfcastle. That's the joke.
That is the joke. Well done.
Oh, I'm going home. Sorry, I'm taking my ball with me. Replacing that, because that was only at 1 week, was Hits 6. That's hard to say.
And
Hit 6.
In all fairness, having looked at the track listings for Hits 6, you can see why it was the fifth best-selling album of 1987, because it's pretty much normally these are about a 70 to 30 ratio of good number ones to crap that you never heard of. This one's 98% too. There's so many tracks on there. Yeah, it's a genuinely good hit album of all of the hits. Of all six, that's the best one out of the six so far.
The best one. Here we go.
The best one. It's
that's
the best.
Best. That's yeah. So Hit 6, there we go. So that was your number one albums, right? So let's get into singles proper. 5th of July, in at number 16 was FLM by your favourites, Mel and Kim.
Yes. Well, yes, they are my favorite. Well, one of my favourites.
Yeah.
So the acronym, because you asked what it meant, and I think when we briefly mentioned it a couple of episodes ago.
So that was the name of the album?
It stands for, it is the title of the album. It stands for Fun, Love and Money.
Ah.
But it was actually a play on the sisters' frequent use of the expression effing lovely mate during the recording sessions. I'd said it like that because I can't be bothered to keep bleeping things out.
I won't bother. Who cares?
Well, true, that's true. But yeah, fucking lovely mate is what they were saying. And that apparently that's what FLM means. So
there we go. That's what FLM means. Number 51 was Red Rain by Peter Gabriel. You're
a big Peter Gabriel fan, aren't you?
I do, yeah. I'm not a massive fan of this single though. It's all right. It's a bit depressing even for him.
Well, I researched this because I was interested, and the lyrics directly reference a recurring dream that Peter Gabriel was having, where he swam in his backyard pool drinking cold red wine. And then another version of the dream had bottles in the shape of people falling from a cliff. And in it, a stream of red liquid would seep out of the people-shaped bottles as they smashed with impact into the ground. And that was usually followed by a torrential downpour of the same red liquid. The red liquid being clearly blood. Just call it what it is. Yeah, no, you can call it red liquid if you want. It ruins vampire stories when you do that. The vampire bit into her neck and drew the red liquid. It doesn't sound the same, does it?
No.
But that's the kind of dreams that Peter Gabriel was having, red liquid or otherwise. Or maybe it was a red liquid. Maybe it wasn't blood. It wasn't blood, it was red liquid. Thank you very much. I don't drink red liquid, thank you.
I'll have a nice cold glass of red liquid, please, barman. You mean wine? No.
No, red liquid. How much is the cheapest red liquid? What, wine? No, red liquid. Come on. Keep up.
Bloody Mary? No, red liquid.
I said red liquid.
Strawberry aid? No. Is there such a thing as strawberry aid? Cherry aid?
Cherry aid, strawberry aid. It's all red liquid, but it's not the red liquid he wanted.
It's not. I wonder. Oh dear. It's not a Red Rain coming down over me, and I seem to remember.
It's not very good.
I mean, it's on the back of "Don't Give Up," innit? Which did with Bush.
Exactly.
It's just.
No wonder he was having dreams of people falling, shouting in their red liquid state.
Yeah,
he's bleaked out.
Depressing core. So there you go. 1 point behind him, though, at number 52, was Oops, Upside Your Head, 1987, from the Gap Band.
Yeah, this was a re-release remix of the classic 1979, Oops, Upside Your Head. I said, that. But I wanted to check.
Filler.
Yeah, well, I wanted to check, see if my memory of this was the same as your memory, because I remember a weird dance that was associated with this, where people sat in a long line on the floor and then kind of rocked backwards and forwards and then left and right. Is that your memory of that?
Yes, it is indeed my memory. That was a thing that used to happen at the Whitgift
School Disco.
In School Disco, yeah.
Okay.
So yes, that was definitely a thing. You're not misremembering that.
So where did that come from? That's one. My question is that a thing? Was that a dance to that? Is that?
I don't know. Everyone just kind of. I think it comes from like a sort of collective consciousness from deep within our memories, that everyone just knows it. That song just appeared. So when everyone hears that song, they just sit down on the floor in a conga and sway from side to side.
Well, I had never.
I've seen it in cave pictures.
I've been to school discos prior to this, and then I changed schools midway through I think when I was 12 or 11. So I changed schools, and then when it was the school disco for that school, they did this Oops Upside Your Head. Now that had never happened before. I remember everyone laying on the floor, not laying on the floor, sitting on the floor in that kind of way that they do.
Yeah.
And the music started, and I was like, what is happening? If you're not initiated to the way of the Gap Band, it's a very strange thing to witness.
Well,
and I've never seen it really outside the school discos. It doesn't happen in regular discos. If you go to a nightclub and that comes on, that doesn't happen. Or does it? Does it happen for you? I don't know. I'd like the listeners of this podcast to confirm. Does that happen in the world? Because I've been to nightclubs, I've been to all sorts of clubs, and I don't remember that happening ever, apart from at school disco. So maybe that's it.
No, I've never seen it outside of them. But like I said, collective consciousness.
That's it.
That's what I think. Number 55 was I Heard a Rumor by Bananarama.
Oh, you mean I Heard a Rumor?
Yeah. I Heard a Rumor by Bananarama.
Yeah.
If you actually put the emphasis in a different way than from their name, it sounds very, very different.
Bananarama. Yeah,
no,
Bananarama.
The Bananarama.
The Bananarama, yeah.
Yeah, the Bananarama. It's like, that sounds unpleasant.
The Bananarama. Yeah, so you got a I don't know. This is from their 4th studio album, which was called Wow. And there were questions.
Can I just stop you there a moment? Because when you'd written that, I didn't realise that was the name. I just thought that was you going, wow, they've had 4 studio albums.
That's both counts. Shocking that they've had 4 studio albums and shocking that it was called Wow. There were a lot of questions asked about this particular track, I Heard a Room, because it sounds arguably like Michael Fortunati's Give Me Up. Now, Stock Aitken and Waltman, who produced this drivel, were asked about that, and they were like, no, what are you talking about now? What are you talking about? Now, it really does show. So I've found a couple of links. I'm going to post there's 3 links. There's the Bananarama version of I Heard a Rumour. There's the not Bananarama song, which is Michael Fortunati's Give Me Up. And then there is the mix where someone has blended the two. And I think you'll find that they do sound very, very similar. Now, we'll come back to Stock Aitken and Waltman's ridiculousnly at this point, because this is where, now I've previously said Stock Aitken and Waltman were good producers, and they were. And then, like I've said, there's a point where it changed, and this is actually we're almost at where we are at that point, and we'll come to that. And this, I Heard a Rumour, is classic formulaic shite Stock Aitken and Waltman horror. So this is not very good, is it?
Yeah, they look really bored in the video as well. They look trying to look like they're like having fun, but it's not a particularly great. And it really does sound like Stock Aitken and Waltman by numbers. I really didn't like this song.
Now, and I always felt, and this applies to every Bananarama song, that they sounded like crap karaoke, because they sounds like 3 people who go up on a crappy karaoke stage, because they're not singing in harmony. These 3 girls, they just sing the same thing each.
Yeah.
So it's not what you'd call great, but they were very, very popular, and I think because they sounded originally in their first album different. But
I wouldn't be surprised if this was the song, or these were the songs, or this was the album that made Siobhan go and be a goth in Shakespeare's Sister.
She did go and do Shakespeare's Sister after this.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, because it's like, if you go from this to Shakespeare's Sister, there's a bit of a change there. You've obviously got different musical aspirations at some point.
Well, for her, I mean, the other singer in Shakespeare's Sister is amazing. That's not her.
No, I know him.
She's that gruff goth thing that sort of goes, "You've got to open."
Which reminds me of the Badil and Newman version of them.
Yes. She's 20 fags a day after the beautiful, the 8-octave ranges of what Marcella, whatever her name is, and then there's that. But there you go.
Number 68, 7 Wonders. I told you we'd be hearing a lot from this album by Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
It is indeed from the Tango in the Night album. I do. I like 7 Wonders. It is twee pop, I know, but it's good twee pop, so I have no problem with it.
Stevie Nicks sings that one.
Yep, she does. She's got a great voice.
Okay.
It is what it is. In at number 93, now we've mentioned this before for Stabby Trumpets and Big Hair, but finally in at number 93, we have Call Me by Spania.
So many stabby. The stabby trumpets are epic.
The trumpets are massively stabby in this. I listened to it earlier. And there's so many of them. There's 6 of them.
Did you watch the video?
Yes.
Did it not baffle you?
Yes,
did it baffle you? Because she's somebody called Ivana Spania, which sounds Russian or Eastern European, but she's actually from Italy.
Yeah.
And the music video for this was filmed around Nottingham in the UK.
Yep.
And actually was filmed in a ritzy nightclub and the nearby, and it's Beaver Castle. It's spelled Belvoir, but it's Beaver Castle. Mm-hmm. But it's just the hair. It's ridiculous. That hair is ridiculous. It's massive hair.
Massive.
It's so big. I can't explain how big that hair is. It's big. Did you think the video was weird because it starts like she's on a really crap date in really bad weather?
Yeah, she just gets picked up by that guy, doesn't she? Then she gives him a card that says "Call me" and doesn't have a number on.
I don't think there was a lot of logic being applied up until the point where she's on that stage, and then the stage is small compared to the size of her hair.
It really is. Although I listened to the song, the stabby trumpets and the verses, but this song really made me think of. I thought this sounded like Roxette.
Yeah, well, behind the scenes, maybe it's the same producers at some stages.
I don't know, but it really did put me in the chorus, especially when the chorus comes in. I thought it really sound like a Roxette song.
Oh, I don't doubt that there's some lineage of production that's going on there because it's Italian Europop essentially, really.
Yeah. But if you take out those stabby trumpets, yeah. God,
Well,
so
I don't
stabby.
get why they would, because normally with these Euro hits like this, it's some scantily clad, huge-haired woman, obviously, poolside, dancing about. No, a
You're
la
just thinking of
boys,
Sabrina,
boys,
aren't you?
boys. Yeah, but that's kind of the benchmark for this. It predates it a little bit, but this is clearly one of those holiday hits. But just why would you go to Nottingham and Belvoir Castle to film your video? Why? On a bad day, on a really miserable day.
Yeah, well, a typical British day.
It had me in hysterics, that video, because it was just, I was like, when he pulls up and he's talking to, that first minute, and you're like, no one, I'm not surprised. I'm surprised you didn't just go, no, this date's crap. Get lost. Why did I come to this castle?
I don't know. Oh, call me. What's your number? Don't know.
Well, no wonder she didn't give it to him. Who takes somebody to a castle on their first date?
Me.
Well, I was going to say, apart from you when you did it. But.
I know, it was the only date. It was first and last, and always. I was depressed as the sisters were. Anyway, that's it. That's that. 12th of July, let's move along. In at number 3 is Who's That Girl by Madonna. That will obviously go up to number 1. There's no to say about it, is there? We've said it.
We've done it.
An okay-ish Madonna song. Again, in at number 32, La Bamba by Los Lobos.
La 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 Bamba. Nothing more to say about that.
Yeah, that's all I remember. At number 38 was Sold by Boy George.
Completely forgettable. I'm not even sure what it is. Do you know that
I heard
one?
No, I think he wrote it at an auction. But I don't know. It might not be true. Number 42 was She's On It by the Beastie Boys.
Sounds exactly
I listened to this.
The same as Fight for Your Right.
That video is unpleasant to watch.
Unpleasant in the sense that it's just sheer gratuitous teen boom.
But I always got. I just didn't know to be. Maybe the Beastie Boys at that point really liked that sort of thing. But I don't know whether it was supposed to be a bit of a pastiche of other rock bands and doing stuff. Whether there was something more to it, or whether it actually just was them with loads of women in bikinis.
I think it was them with loads of women in bikinis, and of course, I think looking at that, I think they were like 17 or something. So
yeah, they probably weren't. Yeah, I don't know.
They weren't serious,
and it's not a particularly great song. Not really.
No, it's not. It's just more of the same of their stuff. So
yeah. Number 52, Spy in the House of Love by Was Not Was.
And did
you
listen to it?
I did, and your first line is absolutely spot on. It sounds like it'd be on a Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack, or
I think it must be,
or any film of that ilk around that era.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not a big Was Not Was fan of you.
No, David Weiss and Don Fagenson. They adopted the name of David Was and Don Was, hence Was
It's
Not
really
Was.
stupid. That when you think about it, it's stupid because it's not Was Not Was is not their names.
No.
So they've adopted these other names and then dropped the real names, and there's not even their own names. It's nothing to do with it.
Could have been anything, couldn't there?
Yeah.
His name was David, so it should really been David, not Don, or David, not David would have been more accurate.
Don, not David. Something, but Was Not Was makes no sense. None.
No, I remember them more for What the Dinosaur. That's what I remember What Not Was for. So
yeah, absolutely.
The door, get on the floor, and everybody. That's it. I don't remember.
That's it.
Rubbish. But this is Beverly Hills Cop soundtrack / every soundtrack from that era.
Yeah, this what their name Was Not Was sounds like to me, don't you? They're trying to get around my hatred for using the same word twice. That's what it feels like. They're like, oh, with this'll confuse them. It's like, no, I don't like it. It makes no sense. It's stupid.
It's Was Not Was. They should put it the way around. Not Was. Was
not.
So does that mean you are?
Not
no,
Was.
That's another band completely.
Yeah, not Was. Who are you then? Well, not Was.
Well, I'm not Was, and neither's he. His name's David, and I'm Don. You're stupid and your band's crap.
You'll go a long way.
You'll go a long way. With the Kit Kat.
Everybody walked that dinosaur.
That's a stupid song as well.
I know. At number 59 is Tom's Diner by Suzanne Vega.
Yeah, I was sitting on the corner. Yeah, that.
Indeed. Number 60, right behind her, another female vocalist, Talking of Love by Anita Dobson.
Did you watch the video for that?
I watched the bit. It's like some weird wartime. It's like a crap version of that Nicholas Lyndhurst sitcom.
Goodbye, Sweetheart.
Sweetheart.
Good night, Sweetheart. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it was. Yeah. The bit where she kicks in doing the crap miming, it's just pulling all kinds of stupid faces, like she's some kind of
imbecile.
I don't know, like she's doing a kids' TV show, like a children's TV show.
Didn't need it. The black and white section at the beginning is quite effective, actually. The look of it, it's kind of very Hitchcockian.
Yeah, it's quite nice.
And just stick to that. It didn't need to go to this weird, over colourful, close up of her fluffing her lines and going, "Oh, silly me, I can't even sing my own song." Yep. It's like, no, you can't, and don't.
No, don't. And it was, and it was awful.
It was utterly crap.
It was dreadful. At number 68 was Dragnet with The Art of Noise. The Art of Noise with Dragnet. God, it's going all over the place. The Art of Noise from Dragnet. I put these both in because these two, I know they're not the same, but they sit in the same wheelhouse in my head. Because number 69 was Cabaret Voltaire with Don't Argue. So we've got these sort of art house music bands.
Very much so.
Which is why I put them both
Well,
in.
The Art of Noise, of course, is Trevor Horn. So that's him, and whomever he's working with going, right, we've got a Akai 9000 sampler, studio for the afternoon, and 6 kilos of weed. Okay, let's do...
We ain't doing shit.
Okay, make that into something. All right, tie it to a film license, So, dun, 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 all that. I don't know. I didn't really rate the Dragnet film, so I'm not 100% sure of that. Cabaret Voltaire, however, that's a different matter.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Cabaret Voltaire?
Yeah, I really like them. And they're a band that you're not going to just like instinctively, so because they're very different. They are very art house. They're very, very, very bare bones industrial. And I like industrial type music, and it's easy to just brand things as industrial, but this isn't the Ministry heavy metal version of industrial. This predates that. This is the real noisescape sounds, early synthesizers being thrown in, and just and some really early tech.
Are they like
to make me sounds?
I'm not not up on them. Are they like Throbbing Gristle?
Yeah, they're in that kind of ballpark.
Right.
They're a British group. For a start, I'm not sure. I can't remember where they were from now, but they're a British group. But this is off their 8th studio album, which was called Code, or COD as it was branded, and it's got samples from films in it. A Frank Capra shot film. This sounds massively like, if you hadn't have heard Front by Front by Front 242, if you hadn't heard that and you heard this, you might even think that it was the same band. This sounds a lot like, this is such a strong influence on those Euro industrial synth bands like Front 242, and then later that became By God 20, and then this came FDM, and there's a whole slew of bands out there that sort of fall into that. Now, it's easy to say that Cabaret Voltaire are the precursors to a lot of that, and in some senses they are, because they are an experimental group, so that they don't conform to what you might understand as traditional music. There's weird sounds, there's weird vocals, there's lots of echo effects, there's lots of digital effects, well, not even digital, analog effects at this point. I admire them for that, because they're trying something completely different. I watched a really interesting documentary about the whole music scene in and around the 80s in the UK, and it was sort of about the kind of the new wave stuff that was happening at the time, so the David Bowie stuff, and then obviously that gave way to the kind of new romantic kind of vibe and all of that. And Cabaret Voltaire kind of sit in a weird section of that, but totally on their own. And there's a lot of changes to the band and the style and the people involved and everything else to get to this point. Remember, this is their 8th album. So this is off their 8th album. So, but there's an interesting thing about Cabaret Voltaire, which we'll come back to later in this episode. But I really like this track. I really like the group. And I'll put it in the show notes. There's a good link, a good comparison. I put the link to the Don't Argue Cabaret Voltaire track off YouTube. And I'll also post the link to Headhunter by Front 242, which is off their 1988 album Front by Front. And you tell me, assuming you hear it, you don't have to tell me, but you'll hear in there the clear comparison between the two and the clear influence that Don't Argue had on something like that. And of course, Front 242 led to a lot of other stuff as well. So I find that fascinating. And yes, I am a fan of theirs, in an avant-garde kind of way. I have to be in the mood for it though. I can't just go, I'm going to sit down to a dinner. Let's put some Cabaret Voltaire on.
No, that's not going to happen.
My wife is not going. She's not going to dig that. She's going to be like, "What is this utter shit? why have you served fish to this?" So
I think you'll find that fish goes very well with Cabaret Voltaire and some red liquid.
I've tried that. Yeah. It's just drink your red liquid and shh.
Number 81 is Flowers in Our Hair by All About Eve.
Yeah, no, I did listen to this, the full track, because I am significantly short on my listening of All About Eve, because I know the ones that everyone knows, Martha's Harbour and all that.
Yeah.
But when I listened to this, I instantly could tell why you liked them, because they were a blend of three bands. They were a blend of The Mission, Susan Vega, and Sisters of Mercy.
Yeah, I guess.
And a bit of Fields of Nephilim with a female singer. And I could tell, and she's an amazing vocalist. I mean, without a doubt, like mind-blowingly good. So I could tell why you dig it.
Yeah, they're excellent. I mean, they're really good. If you are going to listen to them, I would always recommend the first album is, just stop after the second album, because that's after Tim Brecano left. And the first two albums are really good. And there's loads of really good songs on there. The second album's a bit sort of more epic-y songs, but I really like this. It's a bit more rockier than we've had Flowers in Our Hair. They're just a good band. They were a good band at the time. Underrated, I always thought. Number 88, You're Gonna Get Yours by Public Enemy.
Are you a fan of like rap and Public Enemy?
Nah, it's not my cup of tea at all. It's not my ooh for a wheelhouse in the slightest. I know our friend of the podcast Gary was hugely into this. I included this because I don't think I don't have any recollection of a Public Enemy track making it in. I've been sort of keeping an eye out for these kind of things. Have we mentioned it?
No, it's
so I don't know whether this was their first one. And I know how massive, even I know how massive and influential Public Enemy will go on to be.
Yeah.
So
I think it might be. I don't know enough about it. Like I said, like you've accurately described, Gary was really into this. He was trading this stuff on hip hop audio tapes. He was swapping them with lots of European contacts and contacts around the world, because he sort of went from trading. He was a big trader in the demo group we were in. He was trading a lot of demos and stuff. And he went from doing that to kind of doing audio tapes and stuff like that. That was his thing. And he was well into that kind of, and still is, I think, into that kind of alternative music scene. Very much into the whole sort of, any alternative music that came across his radar, really, that drifted into his transom. He was well into it. So, and he liked John Peel, of course, so he's bound to have heard some of that on John Peel at some point.
Yeah,
so
bound to have. 19th of July at number 33 was Sugar Mice by Marillion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a weepy ballad.
This is what, no, I don't know this one at all. We've gone past my knowledge of Marillion.
Well, I listened to it because I thought I should. It's a weepy ballad, a weepy Marillion ballad. It's also known as Raton de Azúcar, which is, I think, Spanish for sugar mice.
Is it?
It's a weepy ballad. I couldn't take it seriously because as much as I want to feel sympathy for whatever the hell he was moaning on about, he's got a really dirty mullet in that video, and I was like, ugh. Just like it's like looking at an angst-ridden tramp. It's like, ugh. And of course, angst-ridden tramp went on to form Transvision Vamp.
That is true. But in a mullet of fish.
Yes, it is.
He's just got a fish. There's a fish on Fish's head.
Yes, he's singing this very meaningful, weepy ballad. Like I said, it's like, it's deep meaning. But you can't take someone seriously that hasn't washed their hair in 6 weeks. Just wash your hair and sing it. It's just grubby and dirty and a bit. And his face is wide. He's got a wide face and his eyes smell. That's just my take on it.
I don't even know what sugar mice means. Is it some code for drugs?
I didn't go into the lyrics too deeply because it makes you weep. Makes you weep for 6 weeks. You can't stop.
You did go into the lyrics on the next one though, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Which is I surrender to the spirit of the night by good old Samantha Fox.
Honestly, everything about this video and this song is stupid and crap, but in that kind of way that's compelling and makes you just have to watch it. Did you watch the video?
Yes, I did.
So the opening sequence to this is like a shit episode of The Bill.
It's weird.
Where loads of weird petty crimes happen for no reason. No sense whatsoever for Samantha Fox writhing around in a negligee in bed who can't sleep.
Yeah, true.
And then she just wakes up and starts singing. And then there's a really, really bad, like the fans in their bedroom are ridiculous.
She's trying to keep cool.
She's like blown over. It's hilarious. She's like blown out of a bed by the fans that are like. So there's a massive wind machine in the bedroom, which is clearly causing her issues. So she just decides to like strap on the uber massive shoulder padded leather coat and trousers and go for a random stroll through said crime district where evil cliched pimps are pushing their prostitutes around. They know, and two guys try to get in a nightclub and randomly just don't.
Yeah, and then push another guy over.
Push a guy over and just attack him, and then the police just run in and grab him and take him out, even though they've no idea who that is.
But the police run down a completely different alley, grab someone else, and it looks like Arthur Daly comes shambling out behind him. So it's like some kind of Terry Strong, Arthur Daly minder nonsense going on. That's what I thought.
Utterly stupid. And in the midst of all this, of course, our Sammy is singing a song. And the lyrics for this are just stupid. I'm going to just read out the sample of the lyrics. And this isn't the whole lyrics. This is just a little bit. So, I take cover from the light of day, but you keep calling and I obey. This is like a Dalek thing. It's, I take cover from the light of day. You keep calling and I obey. That was a particularly good Dalek impression.
It was. It's very good. I'm quite terrified here.
I don't remember where I have been.
I can't see what you're sat in, so I'm just wondering if you've gone all Davros.
Full Davros. Full Davros mode. So I'm sat in my little chair. I've got my little buttons. I've just spilt my coffee, so I'm like, for fuck's sake. Because my hands are all withered and pruned.
I can't reach the bottom of my legs.
Dalek 7, pass me a cigarette. I obey. Why am I even going down that road? Anyway, the lyrics were, I take cover from light of day, but you keep calling and I obey. I don't remember where I have been, which made me laugh a lot because you just got out of bed. You know where you've been. But you come back to me in my dreams. That's just one of the little phrases that's in. That's a verse, I think.
It's rubbish.
It's utterly... I've just shouted, demons out! At the end of that, because that's the best thing. But it just gets worse and worse from here on in, so here we go.
Yeah, awful. Number 41, Toy Boy by Sunita.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
So this is chicken stock ache and a Waterman. It's absolute shite. Now, I have previously said I like,
gravy and egg.
It is. I previously said that I admire them, and there is a stage when I did. Not now though. Now they're firmly using the same sounds and program and production for everything, and this is linked actually to something else we'll come to in a minute. They were basically using an Akai 9000 sampler for pretty much everything at this point and a couple of synthesizers, which made it so that obviously if you've got a sampler and you've got a sequencer, you can replicate the same drum patterns, the same sounds, and just obviously iterate them over whatever song that's going to be sung in terms of the key and the whatever else. But what you have there is a template, and they applied that template to everything from here on in. Not so much the next thing, which we'll talk about, but everything. This Toy Boy Sunita track sounds exactly like I Heard a Rumor. Sounds like all the other crap that came after this. This is the pivotal point when they realized that the Hit Factory had found its production tools. And this is, I remember saying when we look at the Stock Aitken and Waterman that produced FLM, which was Mel and Kim's album, as much as it's Stock Aitken and Waterman, it doesn't sound like Toy Boy Sunita, and it doesn't sound like Bananarama, and it doesn't sound like everything else that came after it. And that's important because everything after this point now, when we look at Stock Aitken and Waterman, it's going to sound exactly like this crap.
It does. It really does. We've got to get into...
Utterly horrible.
I feel Kylie and Jason, that lot happening, come up, isn't there?
We are, yeah.
Like rubbish. Because at number 42 is Roadblock by Stock Aitken and Waterman.
Yes. You must have heard this, right?
I didn't listen to this. No, I don't think I have. I didn't bother.
So this track is Roadblock. It sounds like the first thing you'd notice if you listen to this. It sounds nothing like anything else by Stock Aitken and Waterman, and there's a reason. So I went and did a bit of digging into this because Roadblock's kind of the Stock Aitken and Waterman track that everyone goes, well, yeah, but they don't. That's them, and it doesn't sound anything like the other stuff they did. So I went to a really, really cool website, which I recommend. If you're into this kind of thing, look for it. It's called whosampled.com, and it basically tells you what tracks are sampled in what. So this particular track by Stock Aitken and Waterman is comprised of 6 samples from 6 songs, 5 James Brown songs, Make It Funky, I Got You, Get on the Good Foot, I'm a Greedy Man, and Hot Pants Part 1. And it's also got a sample from The Bugger Groove by The Buggers, which is, I think, an earlier song. I'm not sure if it's a 1974 song. Either way, all of those are essentially soul funk tracks with that kind of soul funk drum beat, soul funk bass lines, all of that kind of stuff. You've heard Make It Funky by James Brown. Make it funky. Ding, dig, 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 dig. So Stock Aitken and Waterman's Roadblock sounds, nothing like all their other produced stuff because it's literally using nothing of their own. This is comprised of 6 tracks that they've ripped off to form this particular thing. So it sounds nothing like anything they could produce because they don't have a creative bone in their body to produce anything of that funky magnitude. And what you end up with is what this is, which is A, it sounds like exactly like James Brown would if they'd have turned him into a robot. B, nothing like anything that Socket could even create themselves in terms of a groove. And C, this proves to what extent the Akai 9000 sampler was the key to their success. So I'm pouring a lot of hate on it because this is essentially what you're listening to is a bastardization of at least 5 music from diverse backgrounds, which they've bastardized into this white guy nonsense funk groove rip-off dance track. And I think it's shocking and horrible and it should not exist. So goodbye, good luck, and good riddance.
All I took from that was I really want a song called Funky Magnitude.
I bet there is one.
That's a great name for a song. Ooh, funky magnitude. Ooh, I got attitude. Ooh,
well, you know,
there you
there's
go.
an entire song structure of James Brown around him filling up and using a hot tub, right? It's too hot in the hot tub. It's too hot. Fill up the hot tub.
That's Eddie Murphy in it.
Yeah. It's hot tub's too hot. Too hot in the hot tub. Ow! But yeah.
Number 55 is Sweet Little Mystery. Wet, wet, wet. It's always been a sweet little mystery to me how this band became so popular. I ate Wet, Wet, Wet.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Did you watch it?
I did watch the video. Awful.
And did you notice his headlock?
I did notice his headlock. he can't swivel his neck. I reckon he's woken up with a crick in his neck the night before. He's like, we've still got to film, Marty. We've got to film. I can't move my neck. Although he's Scottish, so he's not going to speak like that.
Can he move me neck?
That's it. There you go.
Now, see, I watched this, and now I thought that for some time, but I hadn't obviously watched wet videos because A, I'm not a middle-aged woman from the 80s.
Why would you?
B, no, exactly. Why would that happen? Anyway, obviously for this, I watched this, and that's when I noticed it again. I'm like, he can't. He's actually got a crick in his neck, or he's hurt his neck because he can't turn his head. And it's the way it affects the entire look and feel of the video because even the way he bobs up and down, his head's rigid. He's like a buddy. It's like some alien. It's like his head's locked. So it's like a fixed wheel on a bike.
He has to take his own pillow out with him when he goes, on tour with him, sort of thing, and they refer to it as Marty's pillow.
So he got his name.
That's how he got his name. Yeah, it's not Marty. It's Marty Bed.
Marty pillow. Bring his pillow. Anyway, that's
if you don't bring it, it gets very crabby.
It does. Well, I'm just going to say I'd like to see Marty Pellow in of course, in the There Can Be Only One. He should be. He's a Highlander at the end of the day, so he should be in the Highlander movie. If
you'll also notice as well, he has around his edge, he's kind of a cutout. He's kind of a Pellow emboss.
He invented the Pellow emboss.
The Pellow emboss.
I like the idea of a website that sells pillows called Marty's Pillows.
Yeah, Marty's Pillows. That's a great one.
But that's how they say it in Scottish. It's Marty's Pillows.
Don't he sing for Wet, Wet, Wet? No.
A lot of people. I can't do it. I'm not going to do a Scottish accent anymore because I'm going to offend somebody. But
yeah, probably
somebody who's got a Scottish accent say the things that we were going to say. There you go.
Yeah, do it. At number 81. Jesus Christ. When I saw this, my eyes lit up because I was like, this can only be gold. And it's Doing the Crab by Michael Barrymore. This could go so wrong in so many ways, is what I thought. But
it did go wrong in so many ways, didn't it? Let's be honest.
No, about us doing this bit.
I was like, honestly.
It is dreadful, isn't it? I had to look at it. Oh, my God.
There's nothing about this that's good. Nothing. It's a clear attempt to create kind of a catchy holiday dance song, like Agadoo and Superman in that kind of vein. Only nobody's going to want to do the things he's describing in that song. It's like when he shouts out, "Everyone's doing the crab." You can just imagine people looking. Did he say crab?
They say crab. Walk to the side. Walk to the left. Walk to the right. Watch your toes.
Is it watch your toes? Touch your back. Spin on the side. Upside down. Finger the thing. Do the thing. And by this point, people are going because there's
bring me my pillow, Marty.
my
Put my neck in.
You've snapped my backbone. This is. I would say it's more like Doing the Crap, which would make more sense. Doing a Crap would have been a good song because that would have been. Oh my God! Touch your toes. push. It's just all the instructions sounded very injurious. It's just terrible. And it was obviously trying to cash in on Michael Barrymore's popularity. This is obviously pre-incident. But trying to cash on Michael Barrymore's popularity. So it had a bit of, all right, and all that. You all right? I'm all right. Yeah, I'm all right. Is everyone all right? Yeah, well, let's do a crab. Let's do the crab. It was just never going to take off. Never going to take off. Because I don't believe that anyone did that. And I don't believe he did. If you went up to Michael Barrymore and went, hey, Michael, come here. Do the crab. Go on, do the crab, mate. Do. Remember that song you sang in 1987? Do the crab. Go on, do the crab. Go on, do it. Do the crab. I said, do it. It's like you're always like a gun, like, do it. Do the crab.
Do the crab. Do it.
Yeah, that's it. You've done it. I can tell you snapped it back.
Doing the crab is what you do in that bowling game, isn't it? Side to side before you start bowling.
It is, yeah. Side to side. Touch your toes. My foot. Yeah, it's definitely the same.
Exactly.
Stupid, crappy. This is when TV... and this is actually interesting because is this the first TV celebrity crept in to release a piece of shit? Because Anita Dobson's in this episode and now Michael Barrymore. I'm thinking that TV celebrities were getting a bit ahead of themselves here.
Well, look, we had a whole section on Nick Beret,
We did, yeah, Nick Beret, yeah.
Stolen French hat.
Mr. Stolen Hat himself, yeah.
So
every loser wins. No, they don't, Nick, do they?
They don't. Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
every loser drowns, as you're going to find out.
And way before this, we had Clive Dunn with Grandpa.
We did, and Grandpa and Granddad. We love
Granddad,
you.
whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, Granddad.
And then there was Grandma. Oh,
Grandma.
It was awful.
There's no one quite like Grandma.
You've taken me down a dark alley again, and I'm not happy about it again.
That's the lyrics of the song. There's no one quite like Grandma. She took me down a dark alley.
I wasn't happy then, and I'm still not happy now.
Yeah, I'm still not happy now, and 50p doesn't make up for the trauma. So, yeah.
26th of July. In at number 19 is True Faith by New Order.
Yes. Now, at last, I think, and this is my opinion only, this is one of the greatest pop songs of all time.
You could be right.
I think I would put this in probably the top 3 pop songs of all time.
It's a great song.
It's not just great. It's just mind blowing. Even now, I listen to this now. There's a couple of True Faith, a couple of New Order tracks that really stick with me. One is Regrets, and one is True Faith. True Faith, I remember seeing the video, which is that kind of people slapping each other and all that kind of stuff, which sounds different to how it is, but it wasn't the video for me. I just found this song sits in a really interesting cusp between... You can tell this is a battle between people in the band, this song, because on the one hand, you had a drive for New Order to sound more dancey, and on the other hand, you had a part of the band that wanted it to sound more rocky and more poppy. And it sits in such a brilliant cusp of those two that it's, we talk about the Venn diagrams. This is right in that center of that Venn diagram. And what they came out with was such a beautifully written, clever pop song that I find it, even now I listen to it and I think it's got kind of a hinge of emotion. It's just beautifully melancholy, but at the same time uplifting. It's an incredible song. And I think it's because of the struggle between Peter Hook, obviously the bassist, who wanted to make sure that he felt that it was going in one direction, and obviously the band felt the other. He described this as being a very difficult a battle to try and get it to sound the way it should sound, because he felt that New Order sounded like this. Bear in mind, we'd had New Order's Blue Monday by this point as well. Mm-hmm. So you can tell that there's two variations in. Peter Hook was obviously an original member of New Order, but also obviously a member of the band that came before that and everything else. So I think it's a great, great song, a great, great period. And I think it's an expression of the difficulty in a band when the band members change musical direction. And what came out of that is a beautiful thing, which, to this day, it's an amazing song. And it's often heralded by fans as one of their greatest songs, and I can see why.
Just cracking.
Yep.
As is the next song. I love the next song. Number 34, yes. Animal by Def Leppard. We're entering hysteria territory.
We are.
So Animal's a great track. Lyrics make no sense, but Def Leppard's lyrics are not their best. But this really did. This put them. I know Pyromania had been popular, and Photograph and all those things, but Hysteria, Animal, and these kind of things just took them onto that album. It took them onto properly, fully put them up there with the rest of the world's best rock bands, didn't it? It really did put them. They were massive on the back of this album.
It launched them into the US, this album, and this track in particular. It was a massive release. It's one of the best songs off, one of their best songs, and a great song off that album.
Yeah.
And it's incredible, really.
Yeah, and let's not forget as well that this was the return of them, because obviously they had quite a big hiatus because of Rick Allen, the drummer, obviously being in a car crash and losing one of his arms, and then obviously coming back and still being able to drum without...
he recorded the original drum pattern for this song 2 years before it came out in an acoustic drum kit with 2 arms. And then obviously he had the accident, and then it went through 3 different producers. It took over 2 years of production to get this track where it needed to be released on this album. And I think, because obviously when something like that happens in a band, I mean, we obviously, thankfully, you never lost a toe, and I never lost an eyebrow or anything, as far as I'm aware. But for a drummer to lose their arm is just beyond belief, and for them to come back after that, and that's incredible.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, I've always got a bit of a soft spot for Def Leppard, not just because I like that track and that album's amazing, but because that happened, and that's having been a musician in a band with you, and and knowing, and being a drummer in a band as well, knowing how crazy it would be to for anything like that to happen, and to come back from that and be able to do the things that it's incredible. It's truly incredible. So I've always got a bit of a soft spot for Def Leppard in that respect. Even to the point where I'm giving them almost for Let's Get Rocked. They're pushing their luck at that point, but
anything
at this point,
Hysteria, no.
At this point, they're up there in the same leagues as the Bon Jovis and the Motley Crues and stuff like that. This is incredible. Now, I really like the guitarist in Def Leppard. He is famous for his sheer volume of overdubs when he's recording. So there's like at least sort of 30 odd layers of guitar in there. So I can only imagine playing it live must be a nightmare, because he's obviously only got 2 hands and 1 guitar. But that said, they sound like, this is where they really sounded like Def Leppard in Animal specifically, because that chorus is amazing. Well, the bridge and the chorus is just beautiful in this, that whole tonality shift. So yes, definitely
Good song.
Great track and a great band.
Yeah, indeed. Number 35, staying on our rock trip, we have Girls, Girls, Girls from Motley Crue.
Oh, it's just, the video for this is obtuse. Just pole dancers, and them ogling them. It's just
it's full on like LA Strip, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, actually, it's filmed mostly in Los Angeles on the Sunset Strip, but there's a couple of bits in Canada and other bits as well.
Yeah,
but it is what it is. If someone said to you, "Give me a hair metal band that had that released a video of its time," this would be, you could pick this one out and go, "Well, there's this," because it's just lots of it is by the numbers. It's a song about exploitation of sexuality in women, and on the video it is exactly that. Is it? And we can deconstruct these things now and go, this is terrible, really. But in that time frame, it is what it is. I don't particularly like Motley Crue, but I don't hate them, and that's not a bad track by them. But the video is really obtuse.
No, it's not. It's not good.
No, it's not. No.
And at number 69, I Could Have Been a Dreamer by Dio. So
your favourite band?
Dio.
Yeah.
Okay. It's bizarre, this video, isn't it? It's bizarre. There's lots of weird.
Did you watch it?
I did watch it. Can you want to explain that drum kit?
It's not explainable. It cannot be explained. It remains a physics. It's a physics anomaly. So it's a physics anomaly. It cannot be explained. And what I came to the conclusion of very quickly was that Dio is an ugly old bastard in that.
He really is. I did want to draw your attention to some of the lyrics in the song, though. So I have some of them here. So this is the opening. The opening verse is two terrible things. So it's running with the wolf pack. Feel like I'm never coming back, which is bad. And then he goes, and every time there's sunshine, I'm blind. Yeah. Oh, don't look into the sun, you idiot. So,
yeah,
moron. And then what is it? Then the second verse. I'm another number, and you know the numbers must agree. But every time the wind blows, I can't fly. Why? What does any of this mean?
Are we looking for sense in a Dio song? Because there's not going to be any.
And then I could have been a dreamer somewhere along the line. I am everybody, and everyone that I know is me. Everyone that I know won't see.
Jesus.
We've got some bad lyrics, but those are just incomprehensible gibberish.
Yep.
Don't look into. Every time I see the sun, I'm blind. Don't look at it. It's really hot. It's really bright.
At it, Mr. Dio. Yeah, don't look at that Dio. Yeah,
you got to put two negatives in front of your eyes, even if you want to see a eclipse.
Yeah, and more importantly, sort the physics out on your drum kit because that is going to hurt someone.
For those who haven't seen it, you know the bit in if you've seen Inception where they bend the world upwards. It's like that.
It is an Inception drum kit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You'd expect to be able to walk up to that and then walk up it like in some kind of weird physics type anomaly.
I thought it was odd when you first see the drummer and his tom-toms are behind his ears. I'm like, hang on a minute, what's going on there? That's weird.
He looks like he's got the silhouette of Mickey Mouse.
He does. It ain't good. It ain't good.
No, it ain't good. That's a good video for all the wrong reasons. At number 80, Heart and Soul by Tapao. Good old Tapao. I like this song.
No, really?
Yeah. This and China on Your Hand. I've got a really soft spot for. It's good catchy tune. This. I know the lyrics make no sense, but it's a nice.
Well, they
catchy
don't
tune.
any of their songs, do they? No. I like it because it's got kind of a quasi rap, isn't it? At the beginning, where she's walking on the water, walking on the air. That was the heart of the love we shared. Do you keep a secret left untold? Can't give love, heart or soul. I used to have a lover with a Midas touch. I turned to gold, but he turned to dust.
Roger Moore.
Exactly.
She's in love with Roger Moore.
Left me for another. I turned to stone. Now I want your love, heart and soul.
And then it's got the big chorus,
Yeah. Give a little bit of heart and soul.
Yeah, exactly. Good chorus.
Something in the moonlight catches my eye. The shadow of a lover goes dancing by. Looking for a little bit of love to grow. So, give me love. Give me heart and soul. Just no more now. No. Stop trying to rhyme. They rhyme soul with things that doesn't rhyme. You can't rhyme soul with somehow. It doesn't. Or with more. It doesn't work. Stop it now. Stop.
Oh, there you go. It's your singles. Heart and Soul. I like Heart and Soul. I'm not gonna apologize for it. It's just one of them things. The rest of the album was crap, apart from Heart and Soul and China in Your Hand. Seem to remember. Albums, 5th of July, number 35 was Whispering Jack by John Farnham. Is this any good? I don't know.
No, it was quite lively and poppy, but it wasn't any You're the Voice. It didn't sound anything like You're the Voice. It didn't have the catchiness, so it was never going to be that popular.
No, that's all it's going to be known for, isn't it?
It might have hit number 1 in the US, but it was never going to break the shores here.
No, never ever. Number 54 was an album called Collaboration by George Benson and Earl Klugh. Now, there's no notes on this, but I just put this in there because I think that the name of that album was just, we'll get these two in and they'll have a collaboration together. And then someone just forgot to come up with any other name for what they were doing. So it just ended up being called Collaboration because that's what happens when two people work together.
It is. There's no conflagration of their names that makes sense. You can't have George and Earl because it sounds like just like a couple of, a couple. You can't have Benson and Clue. It sounds like a lawyer firm or an investigative journalist or perhaps a crime investigator.
Yeah.
So the combination of their names don't quite work. So Benson and Clue, Benson and Earl sounds like a cigarette manufacturer.
Cigarette.
Yeah. George and Earl, George and Clue sounds like something that like an offshoot of Rainbow, where a new character called Clue came in. It was just some kind of question mark formed from fuzzy felt.
It's time for your bungling.
I'm going to bungle you, Clue.
Ow. Oh dear. 12th of July. Straight in at number 4 was Echo and the Bunnymen with Echo and the Bunnymen.
Yeah. When I was doing my digging, I did do a lot of research into Echo and the Bunnymen because we spoke about it before, but I didn't realise that Bill Drummond of the K-Left was once their manager.
Oh, there you go.
But he was. So.
Number 9 was The Island Story by various artists.
Was this Island Records? I couldn't find anything much about this.
I think it was Island Records. I couldn't find anything about it as well, but it must have been, because I remember Island Records being quite big at the time. But yeah, I don't know. Various artists by them. More interesting, at number 18 was En Concert Lyon, Houston by Yomi Elia.
Yeah, these are the live recordings of the two amazing shows that he did in Houston and Lyon.
Yeah.
Houston was on the 5th of April, 1986, in honor of the city's 150th anniversary. And NASA's 25th anniversary, although I feel sure NASA has been around for longer than that. Somebody at NASA's going, we've been around longer, bloody stupid jar. When it's a door, not a door. When it's a jar. That's got to be a joke somewhere in France. Someone's got to do the French version of that joke. Anyway, after that, he was invited to give a concert in Lyon on the occasion of the visit of Pope John Paul II. So these are the live recordings of the concerts. Now, there's a few things that I haven't noted lots and lots of stuff down about these, apart from the fact that this was the first time that Western audiences were given the experience of the laser harp, because he'd actually used that in China, in the concerts in China, but we'd never seen it until we saw it in Houston.
Bloody laser harp.
Yeah, which, whatever that may be or not be. Anyway, what is important is a few things. So these are really spectacular, crazy spectacular concerts. This Docklands, all of the Jar concerts are incredibly visual spectacles. Not something you see, really. Well, not so much, not that you don't see them. There's a few bands that still do this kind of big light show. I think Coldplay still do that kind of thing. I think Muse are very much into that kind of... The production of the show is lights, lasers, and stuff, and the band are a thing that happens as well. And but I think is it fair to say that Jean-Michel Jarre was perhaps the first person that really embraced that idea of throwing loads of tech and stage production? The Rolling Stones, to some extent, I think, were doing some stuff, and U2.
No, you had bands like ELO before then.
Yeah, but ELO weren't doing anything like this.
ELO had a giant spaceship on stage.
Yeah. There was all, but there's lights, but they didn't use lasers. They didn't use anything like Jean-Michel Jarre. He took a fifth of the power of the entire state to power the concert that happened in Houston. Now, and when you see the footage of it, true. When you see the footage of the concerts and everything, they are truly mind blowing. And obviously, he's playing the albums that people. He plays the tracks that people know him for. The rest of the albums, I'm pretty sure people are going, because everyone remembers magnetic fields and certain tracks from Equinox and all the rest of it, but there's some tracks that he plays in there where it's really big, the opening from Rendezvous and stuff like that are really big tracks, and I'm not sure that everybody was getting it, but the recorded footage of it that's demonstrated here both in Lyon and in Houston, they are incredible because they're live performances. Whichever way you look at it, those are live performances of digital instruments, and it is astonishing. It's astonishing. And even when you listen to Docklands, there's a lot of high quality musicians and singers and capable session artists and everybody else pulling all that together, as well as Jarre himself. But to be able to have the confidence to pull all that together in a live show, because just turn the power off and it's all still not going to sound great, is it?
That's the same at any gig.
Well, yes. But what I mean is...
imagine Metallica without power.
Yeah, but he's talking, their guitars and stuff like that. What I mean is that there's an analog quality to everything they do. You could get a guitar and play a Metallica song if you really were desperate. It would sound crap in a 80,000 to 100,000 seat arena if you just broke out a Tanglewood. It's like, okay, doom, do, hey, doom, do. There's no amps. Just come on, everyone. But I remember, I think I definitely saw the Houston concert video before I saw the Docklands. Well, no, because obviously it occurred before then. But I remember seeing it and hearing it because I remember getting that from the library when you could get records from the library. And this, by the way, was before Gary stole it from the library. So I was able to get it. So I remember listening to this.
That's slander, man.
That's a true fact. It's not slander, that's a fact. And I'm willing to bet if you went into his record collection, slid out the Jean-Michel Jarre Live in Houston album, along with perhaps something like the soundtrack to John Borman's Excalibur, I'm pretty sure there'd be a Grimsby Library stamp in the back of it. Anyway, that and the Cosmos, the soundtrack to Cosmos, which I know that he robbed from there. I know he did. Anyway, I'm just outing him for the criminal he is, podcast friend and all. But anyway, that's where I heard it first, and it's a mind-blowing recording. So I think people should go and listen to that. The studio recordings of Equinox and Magnetic Fields and all of those albums that were played live in that concert, they're one thing, but live, there's something magical about that with the live singers and the entire. Because at this point, he's got a 60 people choir singing all of the choral parts to some of the songs. It's just astonishing, mind blowing.
Good stuff. Number 26 was "No Protection" by Starship.
And I've not made a lot of notes around this. I'm
just gonna note this. So this was their second studio album. It's got the big track was "Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now" on it.
Yeah.
But just to show how weirdly incestuous and their sort of relationships, not with each other, but there's the weird sort of internecine, intertangled nature of Starship and all that was. This was the last album which was released through Grunt Records, and the final Starship album to feature vocalist Grace Slick, who left the band in 1988 and rejoined Jefferson Airplane for their reunion tour.
Weird.
And self-titled reunion album Jefferson Airplane. So it's like you were in Jefferson Airplane, you became Jefferson Starship, you played then Starship, then you left to go back to Jefferson Airplane. It's like who's who? You're all the same band.
Yeah.
But there you go. So that was that. That was the only thing I could sort of dig up on this. I'm sure there's lots in it, but nothing's going to stop us now. Looking at the track list, and it's the only one I recognised.
Yeah, same.
So that was about it. 19th of July. Wasn't a lot going on this month, really. 19th of July, number one, straight in at number one, basically, introducing the hard line, according to Terence Trent D'Arby.
Yeah.
So,
we spoke about it earlier.
About that. And then at number two was Hit 6 from various artists. So that would go up to number one the week after. More interestingly, at number 57 is Love is for Suckers by Twisted Sister.
Oh, I'm not a Twisted Sister fan. No.
Yeah, you are. Admit it.
I can't. There's a few things I can't get past. It looks like my friend's mum, the lead singer, and I can't get past it. And for that reason alone, I'm out. I'm out.
I'm out. Well out.
It does. It looks like Gary's mum. I can't be doing with that.
poor Gary.
It's Mags. It does. It can't. There's no way around it. It does.
26th of July. Let's wrap this up quickly. Number 4, we've got the Who's That Girl original soundtrack. So more Madonna. Then you've got Britain's Madonna at number 22. Samantha Fox with Samantha Fox.
That's what she wants. Yeah. The eponymous album. Don't call it that.
No, but then more interestingly, and just to round out on a high, in at number 68 is the one that's going to be massive, is Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses.
Yes, and it is a bit of a corker, isn't it?
It's a great album, yeah. It's a cracking album.
It's brilliant.
But that's going to go on and be huge. Yes. I mean,
and rightly so.
Yeah, but I'm just amazed it only came in at number 68. It's like they were a real slow burner, clearly.
Well, if this is a UK chart, because, I mean, in the US, that would have stormed up there. But where this is occurring is interesting. After Bon Jovi, the bubbles have burst a little bit at this point. It's not saturated, but this is just pre-saturation point. But they come along, and we had the single, didn't we? I think last two episodes ago.
Mr. Brownstone, was it? The double A side?
The double A side of that. And we knew this was coming, but there's such a good... I mean, come on, Welcome to the Jungle's on here. Sweet Child of Mine is on here. I mean, come on. This album is phenomenal. This was where it showcased the work of Axl Rose. It showcased the work of Slash as the amazing guitarist. And oddly, I didn't really take to this album initially. It took a long while for me to really like it. I don't really know why. I don't know if there was just something about Guns N' Roses I didn't quite connect with me at the time, I think.
No, I think they weren't German and called Halloween.
Yeah, there's that, and also, which is stupid really, because the collection of rock chicks that were around in Grimsby at the time really dug Guns N' Roses. So to take umbrage at the fact that band was a stupid thing to do if you want any attention of any description, let alone looking like an Iranian Hulk. So it was never going to happen, was it? So that was a blocker. But to dislike the one band that came along with a good album, for reasons that I can't explain, and then wear a T-shirt with Egg Eyes, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yep, that was our younger formative years.
But I don't remember you really liking it at the time. Not really liking it.
No, well, I wasn't really massively into sort of rock stuff at the time.
No,
that kind of sort of metal stuff, that was more your wheelhouse.
Well, it was. But do you remember that when we first formed the band?
Yes, there was that as well.
Both the singer at the time and the guitarist at the time, who sadly passed away, they were both massive Guns N' Roses fans. Hence the reason why one of the very first songs we did a cover of, if you call it that, was "Sweet Child of Mine."
We did,
and we did "Welcome to the Jungle" as well.
No, we did "Paradise City."
Oh, sorry, Paradise City. That's what I meant. Sorry,
yeah. Badly. It was more sort of, It was. I don't know what it was more like.
It's a work in progress, is what it was.
Yeah. It was more like Slightly Nice Village.
Yeah, it was. He could, bless him, the guitarist at the time, an amazing guy. I say, sadly passed away. Couldn't get the he couldn't do the riff, could he? Not all of the notes. So it went do 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 bip bip do 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 bip bip do 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 bip because he just couldn't get his fingers out the way for those final two muted notes. So he was just Aye.
Oh well,
anyway,
never mind.
There you go.
There we go. That's music for. That's a lot of music again. These sections are getting massive.
It's a whopper.
It really was, yeah. So I'm not going to go through all that because it's just too much. But that was your music for July 1987. We've got a few more games still to come. So we're going to go take away a short break. Now we're going to go have a short break, and we'll be back after that with another 5 games, which include more balls. So stick around.
The novel Escape from the Commodore 64 by David Hearn is out now. Crash landing on a green planet full of vector graphics, can Sarah find a way to escape for real? Or is she stranded on a planet full of sun, sea, and chippy tea forever? Imagine finding yourself in a cinematic karate game, having to rescue a princess, or remain stuck under the run-stop key forever. What about finding yourself on a space freighter full of robots? Could you clear the decks? If you were transported back to a Wild West town, having to round up outlaws, could you survive until sunset? What if you were a wizard with a cat who must colour worlds? Could you beat the game, or would a virtual guitar solo announce your demise? Sarah might just be another visitor, but she doesn't want to stay a while, never mind forever. Available from Amazon and all good online retailers, discover if there's a way out in Escape from the Commodore 64. Visit davidhearnwriter.com to find out more.
And we're back. We're back for our last section for this episode. So let's get into it. We've got games. Girl, rah, rah.
Games.
I was thinking more of guns. Can you fly, Bobby? Let's go. What's our first game? Graham, we're going to talk about Deathscape.
Go for
it. Do
it.
you know Deathscape? So the Varg Empire has infiltrated the Deathscape arena. I've noted here.
Yes,
I'm not quite sure. I've noted. Is that in Sheffield or Manchester? I'm not sure which one that is. The Deathscape arena.
I'm pretty sure I saw a band there.
Yeah,
sorry,
exactly.
Aerosmith there.
And they've taken control. The Varg Empire has taken control of this vital grid network, the Deathscape arena. This Deathscape has been the place where, for 200 years, the Sol Federation and the Vargs have settled their political disputes. Usually, only one fighter from each side goes in, but now the Varg are flooding it with hundreds of fighters. Only you can go and kick them out of it. So it's 2 men enter, 1 man leave. It's basically Master Blast or whatever. So strapped into your Zarquon Cam 3 multi-role fighter, you swing into action against the pesky Varg Empire by going and entering the arena. You want to go and destroy the Varg fortresses inside the Deathscape, piece together the code to lower the Varg mothership's cloak and shield, and blow it all to Kingdom Come.
Yes.
Sounds great, doesn't it? Anyway, so this game is essentially a 3D shooter. As you traverse the lanes of the Deathscape, enemy craft coming flying towards you, and you have to shoot them. There you go. You can speed up or slow down by pressing the various F keys on the CC2. So F1 is the slowest speed, F7 is the fastest, and you just keep shooting until you are dead. That's it, really. You can somehow, it seemed arbitrary, take on the role of a ship outside the Deathscape, but you're still shooting the same enemies, just not going down a tunnel. It's an odd game, this, because there does seem to be some thought to it. It all seems very haphazard and random, and there doesn't seem to be much in the way of navigating the world in front of you beyond shooting stuff. It feels to me like the trench sequence from the Star Wars arcade game mixed with the landing sequence from the US Aliens game. That's what it felt like. You just fly through a simulated tunnel and shoot things forever and ever. I didn't see or find any evidence of any code to take down the mothership, nor could I seem to make my ship go different ways on the grid, because if you press the number keys, there's these hands at the bottom, because one's on the joystick and one's there. So if you press them, it's sort of slightly animated to go press a button on the UI at the bottom. Kind of, what was the other one we looked at the other week? Terror of the Deep style.
Yeah.
So if you press 3, it pulls up a grid. But I couldn't see it had much bearing because I couldn't navigate the grid. I couldn't turn anywhere. I didn't know I couldn't do anything. The visuals themselves, they're all right. The interior of the ship is all right. The 3D effect on the tunnel and aliens is pretty good. There's a choice of music by Ben Dalglish. or sound effects, but it's not a great tune, and the sound effects are just relatively perfunctory. It feels, again, this felt to me, because there's not much more to it. You're just flying down a tunnel, shooting stuff, and there's just these sprites scaling up and down towards you, which you're trying to shoot with your lasers. I think your lasers every now and again will overheat as well, so you have to wait for them to cool down. It feels to me like another tech demo, like that Sunstar or Skyrunner.
Yeah.
It feels like some clever tech looking for a game. And it needed to communicate its aims better to the player. What am I doing? What does all this mean? It doesn't do that. So all the technical whizzes and bangs cannot help if you don't do that. If I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing and I can't seem to control it properly, and I can't seem to get my head around how you navigate this world space and this vague empire and this Deathscape arena and all this backstory and all this stuff, then I don't know what I'm doing, so I just got turned off from it, and I just put it down because I didn't want to play it anymore, because I just felt, after I died a couple of times, I was like, I think I've seen this game and there's not much more that I can figure out to offer. So I just turned it off. Did you manage to navigate the Deathscape arena in any greater way than I failed to?
Well, my initial feelings for this were quite hopeful, and then it just went on and on and on.
Yeah.
And on and on. Shooting at the things, zooming around, selecting the map and the various different things with the number keys. You could change the music, switch the music on or off and all that. And that's okay. But it was just shooting stuff while I was zooming through dot squares, just endlessly. It felt monotonous and dull. And you can change a few different things, and obviously you got the different views to some extent. And the graphics were okay, if a little sparse in the main. And the UI had really tiny little hands for the controllers.
Felt like Jeremy Beadle was
because he had beadling of the hands, massive beadling. It just the whole thing was it kind of looked the part. Like I said, when you first see it, you're like, wow, there's some nice moving things, and it's, and you think, wow, this is okay.
Yeah, it's got a nice title screen.
Yeah, and then the UI's got lots of, aside from the tiny hands, lots of little blinking lights and blinking things, and there's things flashing and stuff like that. But when you get past all of that, because none of that actually means anything, you get through all of that, this is just a dull fly through the dots game with some sporadic shooting in it endlessly. And the music's kind of monotonous and not great, and I didn't like it. And I saw this is an average game, and it got an average score at 55%. But it's a high-priced average game. There's better out there. I just thought this was just dull. And the Zapped review was the same. They were like, yeah, it's all good, but it's dull, and it is dull all the way. Nothing dull.
Yeah. It was. This was by someone called Starlight as well, who I never heard of. And some of the spaceship designs were quite nice.
Yeah.
When you saw
some
them.
of the graphics look the part a little bit, but dull.
Yeah, it's a tech demo. It's a tech demo looking for a better game.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what I thought. So, unfortunately, Deathscape Arena doesn't live up to its billing, I'm afraid. So, I'm not going to go back there and watch a crap band. That's not going to happen.
No.
Let's move along quickly and see if our next game is any better. Graham, take us down to it's another ball game, oddly shaped ball, bounce weirdly. Super Sunday, the first of our many American football games.
Well, this is Super Sunday or Super Bowl Sunday, depends, I suppose, where you're coming from.
Yeah.
This was a full price game. This got 92% in Zap. So let's just take a moment to think about that, because that's a high score in this episode in this magazine. That's high. This is published by somebody called the Avalon Hill Game Company, developed by Quest Inc. Quest Inc. had produced other things like Pure Stat College Baseball, NBA, football. Well, not they produced things like this, not all of this at the same time. Pure Stat Baseball, Super Bowl Sunday, obviously, and World Greatest Baseball Game. So they've got a bit of a heritage. Now, if you look for the back catalogue of both of these organisations, there's a lot of RTS-ish, strategy-based games in there, and a lot of them for the Apple II. And this was originally, looks like, and I think is originally an Apple II game. So they mainly do kind of strategy, sort of RTS-ish, not real-time strategy, but strategy, those kind of things. So where does that leave this American football game? Well, this is basic looking initially, and you'd almost be forgiven for thinking it was programmed in BASIC. Now, we've seen football games of this type. Do you remember that one that was like played over 17 years? The basic football game when you chose your league and then it went through every iteration. You were like bearded and
Oh, the
heavy
bubble.
breathing by the end of it. Yeah, the double. So this could have been like that. Now that this isn't, because there's a lot of clever things going on behind its very basic looks. So this basically allows you to replay or play multiple games between every team that has been in the Super Bowl final up to from 1966 up until the point of this game's release. Each team that's in that list contains the actual squad and stats of the players from that time. So the whole game is packed full of the correct stats, the names, the dates, all of the plays, all of the things that make American football are all in here and accurately represented, albeit done in a very basic way. So there's a lot, and I mean a lot of thought and research has gone into this game. This isn't some guy that just thought, let's make an American football game. Thought went into this. So when you choose your teams and you choose you go through a whole sea of options. So you choose your teams, your opposing teams, starting lineup, the quarterback, who you want, which one, the starting positions, the plays that you choose. You are playing this from a strategic, almost coach level. And then you get to watch those plays happen in kind of a display. Now, the graphics aren't amazing in it, but they are what they are. So you see the full team, the full American football team, play your play, albeit that it's sort of side view. And then obviously you then go on to choose other options and choose the plays and do that. And then it moves to a defensive game if you score and all of those things. So you go through an American football game of which you can choose the parameters, whether it's a longer game, whether it's accurate to sort of timing, or whether you play a quicker sort of shortened game by shortening down the quarters, as it were. So you've got lots and lots of parameters to choose from. Now, if you get past the fact that this game does have that basic look and and it is lots of text initially and you're just choosing numbers, and there is this weird thing, I don't know if it happened to you, but when you're choosing numbers, it doesn't display the number you're choosing. So it just says press the number. So, all right, so you just press that number and press return.
Yeah, because I think it's not supposed to, because it's not supposed to show it to in case you're playing a two-player game, I think.
All right, fair enough. Well, either way, and again, because like I say, you can play this multiplayer as well. So all of these options mean that you can play a really good game of American football from a strategic level. So once you've chosen all those bits and play it out, and the graphics kind of play out, the game plays out, your play goes through, and then and it's not like it's just arbitrary either. There's some thought even in that bit. So these things play out in a kind of proper way. So it's not like, there's just the AI of the opposing players just run around and do nothing and you can just score. There isn't arbitrary parts to this. They're a living, thinking team that you're playing. When you're playing the offensive game, you've got to think about how they're going to defend and they do defend according to your plays. When you're playing the defensive game, you've got to think about the defensive plays you're going to do and what plays and what offensive plays they might do, whether they're going to go for passing play, whether they're going to go for they're going to hurl a ball out or Hail Mary or whatever plays they're going to do. You've got to think about that and try and accommodate that in your thinking, and you let it play out. Now, when we talked about American football games and other games of this type before, we did say at that time, wouldn't it be great if there was a game where you chose all the parameters and options of what you wanted to happen, and then the game just played out before you so you could see that happen before you and work through that. This is that game. Now, yes, it's basic. Yes, the graphics aren't amazing. They're not going to blow you away. But everything else about this game is so well constructed and so well thought out. You kind of forgive the graphics for the basic, because you are watching a really good and I think quite reasonably accurate digital version of an American football game. Certainly the best of this type by a long way, because if you think of the other ones that we played, or the other one that we played, it was easy to just run the ball past the players each time with the little dots. It was too easy to play, and it was weird. You could only play two teams, and it was kind of weird. This you can play from, I think there's at least 35 to 40 teams, and there's a load of other discs that come with this, which are other teams you can load in, up to the modern team. So these aren't necessarily the same lineups and same teams, but you could load more in. There's a lot of scope to this. If you're into your American football, and you're into that kind of thing, and you're not going to be worried about the graphics in the same way that Football Manager isn't about the graphics. This is the equivalent of Football Manager for American football, and it's genuinely brilliant. Now, I played this for ages. I really, really enjoyed playing it. I went through quite a number of games, won quite a few, lost quite a few. I really, really liked it. There's a lot to like in here. And I think I have to give sort of a nod to the people that sat and programmed and made this game, because they have put so much thought into all of the parts that make American football a great game that it is. And I've said before, I've played it, in a collegiate level. This really does capture some of the stress and the tension of that when you're playing out those plays. I thought this is the best American football game I've played by a mile, even with its basic stuff. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed my time with it. I kind of got stuck playing it for ages and ages and ages, I have to say. And I'd go back to it. It's genuinely brilliant. But what do you think?
Yeah, I don't think I was, but I think you're gonna get out of this how your liking for American football is going to colour your perception of this game. I think to some degree.
Totally.
And I think, and you're more into it than I am. Probably I'm probably more into gambling at the bookies sort of thing, so I'll probably get more out of Sport of Kings. It's that kind of thing. So
totally.
But that said, yes, you coach from one of numerous teams from early 60s to mid 80s, which is a really clever thing to do. And especially for an American football fan, especially in the mid 80s, being able to sort of pair off like a classic, I don't know, Joe Namath's
Dan Marino
San Francisco against Dan Marino's Miami Dolphins, or who would win out of those? It would be classic stuff like that. And for an American football fan, that's manna from heaven. That's like, oh, well, let's play it out and let's see, what was their classic plays and stuff. So it's a tactics based affair, I think, rather than controlling anything. So yeah, you choose your type of play, who's going to do what, you call the play, and you watch it happen in front of you. That's all good. I like that. There's that strategy side of thing. You basically, this is you're a coach, so you're calling the play and then letting the players play it out. And I like the way it was represented, because what was represented was what I called. I was like, yes, I said to pass it that way to that person and running that way, and it all happened. And there was some elegance. I thought the visuals were okay. They looked like American footballers in as much as they could do. There was a lot of them on screen. It moved fast. It wasn't slow, so it's not like Football Manager's slow or anything like that.
No.
And that's quite good, because there's the amount of detail in this is good, and I like the fact that it was fast paced. Once it gets loaded, there's no real delay from screen to screen. You just choose it, press enter, choose your next bit, press enter, choose your next bit, on it goes, and the play starts. You press enter, off it goes. It's fast, and that's good as well. So I'd like to. I played a few, like yourself. I played a few games of this. My only gripe would be, if I was going to just knock it for one thing, was if you want that single game American football sim, then this is up your alley. If you wanted something with a bit more longevity and scope, like Football Manager or like that basketball one we saw, 2-on-2 basketball, it may not scratch that itch totally. So if you wanted to play like a season, play a few games, or take one team through a season, then this is. Because this is kind of Super Bowl, isn't it? It's Super Bowl 20, but writ large, writ to a bigger degree. And that, in that respect, you may think, I wish I could do and I wish they had. I wish they'd have included a season mode where you could just play through a whole season and work your way from, game one all the way through to the Super Bowl if you can make it. I think that, I don't know whether they thought about it, but what they've done here is very clever and works really well. And if you're an 8-bit American football fan, this is certainly gonna be up your alley, I would think. So, and clearly it is, because, like I said, you're much more of an American football fan than I am, and it certainly did it for you. So,
great little game. That.
Yeah, good one. And it's a couple of years old, isn't it? It came out in '85, I think, didn't it?
Yeah, something
at
like
this
that,
point. So, clever stuff. Yeah, Super Bowl Sunday or Super Sunday, whatever it's called. So, because when I looked at it, I was like 92%. When I first started playing it, it was just presented with these text screens. I was like,
yeah.
But then as it plays, you realise, there's more to this. Good stuff. Yeah, nice, well done, good, liked it. Let's move on. A few left. And up next. What's the point in this? It's Mario Brothers, Mario Bros, or Mario Bros, whatever you want to call it. Mario Bros would be really different, wouldn't it?
What, with the actual Bros?
Hey, when will I be famous?
I can't answer.
When will I see my picture in the papers?
Sound like a vampire. When will I see my...
Never, because I cannot be seen. That's a point, actually. Can vampires have their pictures taken?
No.
Okay.
No, they can't.
Anyway, Mario Bros. The classic Mario Bros. Arcade game. So following on, this is a weird one. Following on from the release and that new conversion of Donkey Kong we had some months back, we now have another new conversion of the other, sort of seminal Mario arcade game, Mario Brothers.
We do.
So this was coded by Alan Short, who we may remember from such delights as Ya Kung Fu 2, and has visuals by Jane Lowe and music by Fred Gray.
Okay.
This is not the first port of the Mario Brothers game, as a previous version was released in 1984 by Atari, and that was coded, if you don't know this, by Juan Alvarado and Greg Tavares, who you may remember from such games as Gunship.
Yes, I remember that.
And Project Stealth. Whatever that was. Yeah, that one. So there you go. So, that's got some coding. So this one's got something to live up to, probably. Anyway, everyone knows Mario Brothers really. It's the classic single-screen, 1 or 2 player arcade game starring Mario and Luigi. I believe it is the first game to feature the brothers, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Because obviously Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. and Mario and King Mario, whatever. But this is the first one to actually feature both Mario and Luigi, I believe. There's probably someone going, actually, no, it was in this. I'm like, sod off. Okay. There are 3 levels of platforms on the screen. If you're not familiar with it, essentially what you've got 3 levels of platforms, and sort of 4 if you count the floor. And there are pipes at the top and bottom, right and left. Top and bottom, right and left of the screen. So in the 4 corners, you've got pipes, essentially, that sort of lead into the screen. Turtles fall out of the pipes at the top, and they work their way down to the pipes. So basically, they just walk from left to right along the platforms. And when they reach, there's gaps in the platforms. When they reach the gaps, they fall down to the one below, and they work their way down to the bottom, get back in the pipe, and then back up to the top. And that's what they do. So what you have to do, your job as Mario or Luigi, because you can play as 1 or 2 player, is you have to headbutt the platform underneath them as they walk, and this flips them over onto their shell. You then jump up to the platform and kick them off. If you collide with a non-turned turtle, I knew that would be hard to say, you lose 1 of your lives. If you lose 3, it's game over, because it's an arcade game. If you don't get to the turtles in time, then they will flip back over and become quicker turtles, so they get a speed boost. If you flip them again and still don't get to them, they get even faster. They have 3 speeds, so sort of slow, medium, and fast. In the middle of the screen, there's a big button that says POW on it. If you headbutt this, it causes all the turtles that are walking, not the ones falling at any time, to flip over, and thus you can go kick them all. But you can only use that POW button a limited number of times. If you clear all the turtles from the screen, and then it's on to the next one with more turtles, and so on and so on. There are also, if you take too long on a screen, flames will come on, rolling flames will come on from the left of the screen along the platforms, and any contact with them will also kill you. As I've said, it's this classic arcade logic. It's a classic single-screen arcade game, 2-player arcade game. So all that is here in this second conversion, except it feels wrong. It doesn't feel right. The graphics are not as good as they were in the 1984 version. I didn't think, because I put that on the... Did you play them both, by the way? Because I put them both in
I
there.
I did, yeah.
So I didn't think the graphics looked as nice, because they don't look like the arcade game. They don't get the colours right. The colours of the turtles, they're brown. And they're always brown. In the arcade version, in the 1984 version, they start off as green. When they go to medium speed, they turn to blue. And then when they're finally in their fully angry stage, they turn to red. So that's, that's telling you something about what kind of turtle it is, even if you can't, speeding when it's turned over. In this, they just stay brown. So I've no idea why that choice was made, because it's one of the fundamental parts of the game is the coloured turtles. So to turn them on, I know the Commodore 64 is renowned for its brown, but this is stupid. They're in the previous version. They have green, blue, and red on here. Mario keeps running when you let go of the joystick.
Yeah, he does, yeah.
Which doesn't happen in the arcade game and doesn't happen in the 1984 version. At what point did anyone think that was the right idea? I thought
there was a little bit of run on, but is there not?
There's run on, but no, in this, if you just let go of the arcade, let go of the stick, it just keeps running. They mention it in the review as well.
Yeah, it doesn't do that.
But if you stop, so you have to pull him in the other direction. In the other version, you stop, he sort of skids. In this, the skid is too long.
Yeah, it is.
In fact, in the cracked version we had playing it, there's actually one of the options was to stop him skidding so far.
Yeah.
So clearly there's a thing in there. So all this is wrong. The colours are wrong. The colours of the platforms are wrong. Again, which they got right in the 84 version. The music is horrible. I don't know what Fred Gray was doing, because, Fred Gray's usually reliable for a decent tune, but it's awful in this. Awful.
Weird version of Turkish Rondo, isn't it? It's weird.
I don't know. I don't know it. It neither suits the game or a human's ears. That was my comment on that. It's really strange to play this because it's just all wrong. And it's just another strange release of an old arcade game. It's 1984 that simply gets the fundamentals wrong. And the title screen's weird.
It is weird, that title screen. It's badly drawn crap.
It's badly drawn and odd and weird. to me, this was an $8.95 full price, another release from Ocean on the back of Donkey Kong. It gave it 55%, which is too high because it's all broken. I avoid this and play the 1984 version for my money. The only thing this does is like when you headbutt the platforms, they kind of bend like they do in the arcade version. They don't do that in the 84 version, but that's a small thing. The rest of the 84 version feels much better, and just go play that or play the arcade game. Don't play this version because it's all wrong. It feels bad. The sprites are wrong. Everything looks bad, and it sounds awful. And I really thought this was a weird bad release of a classic arcade game. What did you think?
Well, I've not got much more to add to that. I agree. Having played both versions, and I also played the arcade version for this. The 1984 version is closer to the arcade in terms of the way it plays.
Yep.
The arcade game actually features crabs before you even get to turtles, which the 1984 version also does, but the turtles are what first appears and seem to be the only thing that appears in the 1987 Ocean version. There's just weird anomalies that don't make sense. And it all shouts to, push this out quickly. I don't quite get why. It's a game out of its time, like Donkey Kong was with them. A game out of its time, out of its depth, out of its place. Just it's really weird that it's even released by Ocean at this point. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the other version's better. Now, the other version's it's a better version of that game. The arcade game itself, it's not the most amazing arcade either, really.
No, it's not.
It's just, it's more notable because of the Mario and Luigi connection more than the actual game itself, which is essentially punching turtles now.
Yeah,
nobody wants to go. No, it's not in of itself a great arcade game experience, really. So the versions, but the C64 is more than capable of reproducing this arcade, more than capable, because it's right up the C64's alley. So this is lazy. This is lazy, and at £9 for a full price game at this, I think Zach were generous giving it 55%. I'd have given it a lot less to make sure that this game should not really have been bought. It's a weak version. Even in 2-player, it's not great. It's not as good as other versions of the game. So no, I'm not struck on this kind of game anyway. Like I said, it's not the greatest Mario arcade. It's like saying, it's like heralding Donkey Kong as the greatest arcade. Yeah, there's a place for those kind of games. But 1987, and with all the other games we've played and all the other stuff coming out and stuff, it's well out of its depth and out of its time. And if you're going to do this, Activision have been releasing, Firebird have been releasing a steady slew of Activision games at a budget level. This should be budget. This is a budget game all over the place.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Full price for this, get lost. But I did the same with Donkey Kong, get lost, Ocean. Money grabbers. And they're rapidly becoming more and more. I know Wizball's by Ocean, so do we forgive them? Not really, no, because Wizball was one game out of 100, but the other 100 were money grabbing shite, and Wizball was the game that stood out because they knew it would, and they didn't even really pay for that. So no, sorry, I don't like the ethics of the company that made it, and I don't believe that they were doing it for any reasons other than a cash in. So no,
weird, strange release. I didn't quite get it. 1987 Mario Brothers, weird, odd. And to release it in this state as well, it's a bad conversion.
Absolutely.
There you go. Let's move on. Let's cast that into the toilet where it belongs and go live with the turtles down in the sewers. Let's move along. So Graham, you have the next one. The pleasure of telling us all about the budget title UFO.
UFO is created originally in 1986 by Odin Computer Graphics. This is the budget re-release of this game by Firebird, those budget re-release masters. This is on the Silverbird label, so make of that what you will. This is coded originally.
Did this ever get a release primarily?
I'm not sure. Not sure. It's definitely ODG. OCG.
Yeah.
Now, whether it was released originally anyway, but that's apparently what it was. That's when it was created, 1986. Coded by Robert W. Tinman, graphics by Martin Chatfield and Andy Rosen, musician was Keith Tinman. The air defense is red. The air defense is red, according to the United States Air Force. The Earth is under attack. Again, well, more specifically, New York at this point is under attack. Why? Why is it under attack? We don't know. We don't know, and we don't want to know. It just is. It is what it is, what it is. The only craft capable of taking on these intergalactic arseholes is the F-21 Condor. And we've only got 4 of them. So guess how many lives you've got in this game? That's right. You've guessed it, 4. So only the F-21 Condor is available, and you are the only one that can pilot it. So it's all down to you to shoot these alien tossbags from the skies and save the Earth. Can you do it? And more importantly, do you want to? Well, if you beat them over the skies of New York, then you then have to traverse the hypersonic space corridor. Yeah. To the next level, and then you got to do it again. So what does all that mean? What does it all, that's the background of the game. What does it all mean? Well, this is like I said, an Odin game from 1986, or as I like to call it after this, an Odia game. It's fire budget, so it's a £2 shoot 'em up on the old Silverbird range. Graphics are reasonable, and I'm stretching reasonable a little bit, but they're reasonable.
They're chunky, aren't they?
Chunky, they're half decent sprites. The backdrops are okay. It's meant to be New York, but I'm pretty sure that's Seattle, but it's meant to be New York. It doesn't matter. The sounds in this are horrible, though. They really are awful, and the music is crap. But hey-ho, it's £2. It's a variation of Space Invaders and Galaxians, really. So that notion of gameplay is about as dated as it gets, right? So it's a shoot 'em up, the old style shoot 'em up. So things come down from the sky, shoot. Most of the action takes place in the lower quarter of the screen because you can move your spaceship up a quarter and across. But that's it, really. So it's almost sort of Space Invaders-esque, really.
Yeah, because your bullets only have a really short range, don't they?
Yeah, because the bullets only shoot up and forwards into the screen. So they kind of go up maybe two quarters, so half of the screen. Not even that, really.
Yeah, no.
So you can only shoot upwards, maybe half of the screen height, and the rest of it's just there for show and tell, I think. And there's some things to show and tell. There's a reasonable rendition of a background of a cityscape of some description. There's UI too. On the top right, you've got your tiny little radar, the tiniest radar in the world. It's no bigger than a pixel. It's like an amoeba's radar. So, which you're not going to pay any attention to whatsoever because there's no point. Why would you look at that when the aliens are on the screen in front of you bigger? So you must just look at what's right ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about as much use as a chocolate kettle. That under that is your laser temperature because, of course, the F-21 Condor, being the advanced fighter that it is, has overheating weaponry. Which means if you shoot too much, it shuts off your lasers or it shuts off your weapons for a short amount of time. Stupid logic in it to apply that.
Yep.
So, and I would argue that this is not the best craft to fight aliens from another planet then. Now, I know they're pitching the old, we need an F-21 Condor. It's the only thing that can do it. But don't the lasers overheat when you shoot them too much? Yeah, apart from that, it's great. Well, that's the key thing. That's the thing that it needs not to do. That's the one thing it doesn't want to do.
It's the last thing we wanted to happen.
Exactly. It's the designers. Totally, yeah. Oh my gosh, that is the last thing. So that can happen. So if you shoot too much, the lasers overheat, and you've got like a temperature gauge on the right-hand side. So as you shoot, obviously it rises, and when it gets too much, your lasers cut out and you can't shoot. It's only temporary, but it will cause you to die a lot. So at the bottom of the screen is your current score, and then is the shield and energy status bars, indication bars, whatever you call them, health bar. As you bump into, get shot by, and hit things, you lose energy over time. And if you hit by too many bullets and too many enemies, well, you're going to lose your energy, and thus one of the 4 Condors is dead and no more, and you've only got 3 remaining. You've got a shield as well, which you can activate by pressing and holding the space bar. Stupid. Stupid, that. Really stupid.
And you've got to hold the joystick as well.
So you've got to hold a joystick, you've got to hold the space bar, and that's just one of the many strange things that occur in this. There's no progress indication in this. So when you start the level, you're just shooting at stuff until they decide that that's it. And then your spaceship just goes, hey! Just flies off. just pisses off into the distance. Hey!
Mine did it once at the very, very beginning of the game. It just flew off into the distance before I'd even shot anything.
I'll come to the bugs in a minute. So you've got no idea how well you're progressing because eventually you're just shooting off aliens and then eventually you just zoom off into the hypersonic corridor. The hypersonic corridor is where you've got to navigate a pathway between some domed road cones, essentially, that are zooming towards you on a angry, scrolling raster green and black effect.
Yeah.
So, which is meant to give you the idea of speed. It gives you a headache instantly. It's horrible. So, and you're not allowed to bump into the cones because if you bump into the cones, you lose energy. Of course, if you lose energy, back to the beginning you go. In fact, in this game, no matter where you die, back to the beginning you go. So, so if you get to level 4, you won't. But if you do, back to the beginning you go when you die. So if you do manage to make it through that corridor, the hypersonic corridor, if you do manage to get through that, you get to this really weird screen where you can spend credits that you had no idea up to this point you'd have been accumulating.
Yeah, no.
To top up your energy or your shields, and then you can go back into the game. Now, I encountered loads of bugs in this game. I mean, loads, not just insta-death, which obviously you hit as well, and also just starting arbitrarily, just suddenly flying off into the next level. I also skipped the hypersonic corridor completely at least 5 times. So when I was expecting to get to the hypersonic corridor, and by the way, it takes ages to get there. So when I went to the hypersonic corridor, it just went straight to the, use your credits for, to apply to your energy and shield. Now, at that point, I had loads of credits. I was like, wow, that's good. And then it just started me back at level 1. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's disappointing. I've just beat that level, but okay, this I'm back to, my health is back up. When I did make it through legitimately without, some crazy thing happening, I had 2 credits to spend, which is neither here nor there. Made no difference whatsoever. It's like
it's more than I had. When I got there, I had none.
It's like it increased my health by a hair. It went, there you go. Okay, all 2 credits really helped me there.
Mine was literally, look what you could have won.
So aside from it, yeah, exactly, exploding for no reason, just skipping entire sequences of the game, jumping to the wrong level, and when I did finally get to the second level, it was the visual catastrophe. It's just full of really weird. The game's full of weird options on the opening screen. I think it's option 2. You press number 2, it just turns the music on or off, but only on the title screen. It's like, because there's no music in the game. So it's just, why would you have an option to just turn title screen music off or on? What difference does it make at that point? It's a bad title screen anyway. So that's weird. And then you can press 4 to start the game, or you can just press the fire button. You don't need that. Press 4. So you've got four options, of which one is completely redundant and the other one's unnecessary. It's just really stupid. All shouts that this game is just stupidly put together by someone who did not give a shit.
Well, I guess the 4 option is for someone who doesn't have a joystick.
Yeah, but you can't. If you
try
the
press
keyboard,
whatever, but then you just press whatever the fire button is, won't you?
Yeah, but the keyboard option doesn't work. So if you go for keyboard option, it doesn't work. So there is no keyboard option. That's a myth. So the keyboard option is nothing.
Legend and
yeah, so you just die. The joystick option, you don't need to press joystick option because that's the default option. So all you need is a keyboard option, I suppose. I don't know. The options are weird, but what threw me was the music on or off. But there's no music in the game, so just turn the title music off. Just turn the music off. You don't enough, turn it off. It's what it all shouted was, whoever put this together didn't care.
Well, that does beg the question: how long would you stay on the title screen if it wasn't to listen to the music?
Well, why do you need that switch?
That's what I mean.
Would you need to turn it off?
You're on the C64. The only reason you stay on the title screen is probably to hear the title screen music. If you're not going to stay on there, you just press the 5 button to start the game. There's no other reason to stay on a title screen.
No, and the weird thing is that the title screen's really basic and crap anyway, so you wouldn't want to spend a lot of time on it. It just says UFO at the top, and there's this weird wide writing. Now, the game is called U.F.O. I'm guessing that's unidentified flying object. In this game, who knows, really? But it's a game of I don't care. And at £2, I don't care either. £2 is too much for this. It's broken. And my rule is becoming now, if it's broken, don't release it, even at £2. Because it's just wrong to do that. In any other instance, if you gave someone a broken object, or a broken car, or a broken this, or a broken that, a broken record, whatever, these things, trading standards as being what they were and are, you can't just give somebody something that's broken and charge them for it and go, oh, okay, well, you know what? It is what it is. It's just awful. So this is a Silverbird flew past and it just did a massive shit on you. So I wouldn't have spent £2 on this garbage. And we're going to play a game that's £2, which is better than this. But I thought this was utterly shit. And considering this is an Odin game, like I said, it's an oh dear. What about you?
Yeah, budget blaster from Odin, computer graphics via Firebird, but how the world did turn on them back then. But it does beg the question, like, if this was made in 1986, we're into July 1987 for this to be reviewed and looked at. They've had plenty of time to bug fix it. It's not like they haven't. Or someone at Firebird should have gone, give this to someone for a month, give them the code and just get them fixed.
True.
So there's no excuse for that nonsense. It's essentially, as you rightly pointed out, a crappy version of Space Invaders Galaxians, with some nicer visuals. The visuals are chunky, but the sprites were all right, but much poorer playability and just broken, bug-ridden nonsense. You shoot the endless supply of aliens in front of a fairly decently drawn backdrop before hopping on the eye-watering trip back to base through a slalom of dull rocks where you can then top up your shields and energy, do it all again in front of a different backdrop. Visuals are okay. The sound is offensive to the ears, and the game is just a bland and dated shoot with very little going for it. Now, the thing was, because of those nice visuals, I reckon you stick those visuals. I bet this did look good in screenshots of the back of the box and suckered people in. That's what's kind of annoying, because you looked at this about, this looks quite good. But I would not have been happy if that had been me. Final comment, UF no.
I think, I could be wrong, but I think...
There you go.
The guy that made it, the Robert Tinman...
They worked No to Yes and stuff. He did Ark of Yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, he did Ark of Yes, but he did Hiccups, as we mentioned before, and that kind of shows a little bit there. So.
Yeah, it does.
He did Hudson Hawk as well, by the way.
I don't think I've ever played that, so...
No. Hudson Pork. And that's not a criticism that makes sense. And
no.
And neither does that game.
Crudson Smoke. Yeah, take that.
Ridiculous dork. Yeah, you stick that up your pipe.
Budson Stork.
Yeah, it's not good. But just remember, the air defense is red. So.
Is Peter Gabriel in charge of it? It's just the air defense is red. It's like the liquid. Oh, Peter's off again.
Oh, he's off again. He's having his dreams again.
Someone wake him up.
Wake him up. For God's
Peter,
sake, wake him up.
Wake up, Peter. Red rain. Don't give
red
up.
Blood. Red blood. Red blood.
Give up.
Oh, he's off. For God's sake, he's somehow stop him.
Oh, Peter Gabriel and the Shining. Red liquid. Red liquid.
Peter Gabriel's The Shining. What do you want, Mrs. Torrance? Can you stop singing with Kate Bush, please?
Here's Peter. Whatever you hear me doing in here, it may be a new song, it may be slightly depressing, but whatever I'm doing, don't interrupt.
All songs and no play make Peter a dull boy. Yeah.
All liquid and no colour makes every liquid a red liquid.
That's it. We're so glad you're here. Oh, he's got The Shining.
Oh, don't give up. Right, there we go. UF no. That's not a very good game. Really not.
No.
We've got one more left, so let's move on into that. It's another budgeter. It's another Firebird budgeter. £2. This got 80% though. This is ending as we started. We started with balls. We're ending with balls. Yes. This is eyeball. This has all the balls. This has lots of balls.
This is all balls. This is balls on your chin.
You never want that. So rounding out the teabag episode. So this is another budget release from Firebird, and this is, I think, a conversion from the Spectrum original, which was programmed by Timothy Kloss, and the C64 version was done by Andrew Betts. Andrew Betts had also worked on Warhawk.
He did
before this. Okay, so having that experience in Warhawk, you can kind of see why they've asked him to do this. As Eyeball is a strange vertically scrolling shoot 'em up where you can go both up and down. So you can, you move both up and down the screen. Although the aim of the game is to progress upwards and reach the end of the 16 levels in a time limit. So each level, you got to reach the end of each level, the 16 of them in a time limit. So the premise of this game is that the evil Terry Ball has ball napped Lover Ball, Eddie Ball, Glow Ball, and No Ball.
But no Cannonball.
No. Where's Bobby?
Bobby Ball's not featured.
Eyeball featuring Bobby Ball. Eyeball. Rock on, Tommy. Hey.
Rock on, Tommy. Game over. Tommy.
And only you, Eyeball, can rescue them from being punctured. This would be much better if you did play Bobby Ball trying to rescue him. Bobby Ball, Bobby Ball, Bobby Ball. That's the speech in the main tune. So anyway, you do this by navigating what is kind of like a maze-like upward pathway, shooting anything that appears at random as you progress. To start with, you can only shoot up and down depending on which way you are going, but enemies have a short period. So and there's loads of enemies that appear. They're just constantly appearing. But they have a short period when they appear, when they flash, and they're not deadly. So at that point, you can move through them. And you've got to. So you've got to be quick. You want to shoot them. You want to destroy everything. Once they turn solid, after about a second and a half, 2 seconds, something like that, any contact with them sees you lose a life. And you move. This doesn't move you back to the beginning. It moves you back down the level like about a screen distance or so. So it doesn't put you far back, just enough. There are also flashing obstacles in your path. So the sort of pathway in front of you is kind of marked out by weird, like there's like snapping teeth sort of sprites and objects and weird stuff. But some of them are glowing. If you move into those glowing objects, then they kill you as well. So you have 5 lives. Once they're gone, it's game over. There are power-ups to pick up as you go and they start off with side-to-side blasters, so they'll shoot to the left and right, which is kind of handy. There are spark bombs, there are speed-ups, there are shields, and there's all manner of other stuff. There's all kinds of stuff. These appear as power discs with an X on them. But be careful, as you can shoot them by accident, and you don't want to do that because you kind of need them as you get going through the levels. The visuals are strange and a kind of a garish mix of big sprites and backdrops. As in the track incidental stuff with what's going. It's kind of a strange mix of stuff because it's kind of all on a black background and just this stuff scrolling past, and it's weird. It moves fairly smoothly though, which is good. So it's quite fast. The sound in this is an excellent Rob Hubbard piece that has been, according to the wiki, has been inspired by the Cabaret Voltaire tracks "Whip Blow" and "I Want You." So, okay, make of that what you will. And there is even speech. So, pardon me, amidst all the madness. So, and that is this game. This game is quite mad. It's quite insane. So, it's a decent game. It's a very hard budget game. And it's hard if you take your time with it. It's kind of got a weird sort of way to play it. And there's quite a lot of decent production behind it. So the main issue I had with it, I'll get to the good stuff, it's just with the size of the sprites. I just wish everything was just a tad smaller. Everything's just a bit big. It'd feel, I think, a little better to play, but it has that same chunkiness that Warhawk had. So, because that was quite a chunky game. So I can see why, there it is. And but the fact is the bouncy nature of the ball. So as you hit obstacles, you bounce off them a bit, and you can find yourself this can lead to frustration and death. You can't fit through a gap. An alien's closing in on you and you get shot. So that can be quite frustrating because as you get through the levels, the gaps that you have to fit through are not much bigger than you, and it's very easy to just get stuck bouncing from one side to the other at the entrance, and you're kind of dead. Most of the time, I found that the only way to really play this, it became like a race game almost, because you just race as quick as you can upwards. Don't stop, just go. You don't play it like a normal shoot 'em up in that respect, so it's kind of different. You're not sort of waiting for enemies, you're kind of outpacing them. So it's almost like a kind of weird racing game. So in hope you don't run into a flashing bit of scenery, in that respect, it's almost like a memory test of the course itself. And as you progress through these 16 levels, you kind of remember which way to go, because there are dead ends down certain ways, which means you have to come back. And by that point, the enemies that spawned have now become solid, so they're hard to shoot and they're homing in on you. And that's why it can get quite tricky. I thought that there was not just because you're a ball, but there was echoes of Bounder a little bit in this.
I think there was a little bit of that.
In that I know you play a ball on a vertically scrolling maze, but with shoot 'em up tendencies. So there's kind of some echoes of Bounder in there as well. Once I figured out that it was best to just go hell for leather and damn the consequences, and this was not a game to take slowly, I found myself really enjoying it more. I really got into the groove with it. So it kind of became, this is how it wants me to play. Because when I first started it, I was trying to shoot everything and take my time. And that ain't the way to play at all. You just got to go for it. So you just got to leg it as fast as you can upwards. And that, once I twigged to that, I really enjoyed this. I thought this was a much better game. And I don't think I really sort of twigged to that back in the day. This was one of those games that I kind of liked the music, but never really got on with. Replaying it now, I got on with it a lot more, because I kind of figured, this is how I'm supposed to play it. Oh, God damn it. Okay. Once I did that, I think I got to about level 5 or 6 or 7, which is quite far with 5 lives. So I was doing all right. This is a really decent budget title. I just wish it was a little bit more navigable. I just wish it was a little bit smaller. Sprites just a bit smaller. And just those little things have just been ironed out a little nicer sort of thing. I don't know whether it's just the chunkiness of the C64 and the sprites and whatever sort of thing, whether they've gone for that, but that's probably the thing of it. It is a very competently, cleverly put together package, this, and for £2, there's a lot of game here, and there's a lot of fun to be had, and there's a lot of sort of sneaky little stuff and enjoyableness. 16 levels is going to challenge you to try and get through, but it all works, and it's all nice, and it's topped off with that cracking Hubbard soundtrack, and technically, this is all very clever and very well put together. I liked Eyeball, and I liked it more on this replay than I used to back in the day. So I was pleased to round off after that crappy one we just played. I was pleased to go back to this. What about you? How did you get on with it?
Well, I always liked Eyeball. I bought it way back in the day. It's one of the few budget games that I read the Zapped review and went out and got. I was sold on the audio and the speech. By this point, I'm quite a big Hubbard fan anyway. So, and obviously they made a big song and dance about the music and the speech. The speech is incredibly clear on this game for its time.
Yes,
there's not loads of it, but Eyeball, game over. It just sounds. Sometimes it gets weirdly confused and sounds like it shouts bogey, which always made me laugh. But you've got that amazing version of, and it is a version of Whitblow by Cabaret Voltaire. There's no way around that. It is what it is. But I like it. It's a good version of that. It's so unusual to find that in a C64 game. Now I read that there was a comment on the YouTube video of this from apparently the guy that produced Eyeball, who said that he was just into that music at the time and just said to Rob Hubbard, "Can I have a version of that?" And Rob Hubbard didn't like it, but went, "Okay." So he did. That's how it led to be. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. It's what's past his prologue essentially. So the music and the sounds of this game are good, and the graphics are quite nice. Like you say, they're a bit big, but they're quite nice. And the game does feel a bit weird to play, and there's a weird upgrade tree logic to it as well, a little bit. So some of it feels a little bit bitty and a bit not quite. It's not quite constructed fully enough, so it doesn't have the full game design of a Wizball. But it's $1.99, so it's a hard game. There's no doubt about that. I remember playing it back then and coming to this, funny enough, the exact same conclusion you came to. You got to just kind of get through this game and race it if you can, and get to where you need to be quick. If you delay and start shooting stuff, you're not going to last long. So it's a difficult game. It's half decent graphics. There's good gameplay in there. It's challenging, and there's a great soundtrack. All the classic makeup points of a good budget title. And so, it's £2. I bought this, like I say, back in the day. The speech still blows me away. When I replayed it, even then I was like, wow, that is really good. And you can actually do a little bit of a remix, can't you, with the joystick controls on the title screen, so you can get it to go, eyeball, eyeball, game over, game over, and all. If you want to do that, go for a full-on house remix of it, if you really want to do that. But I think the game itself, a little bit disjointed, but it's £2. And at £2, can you really complain? Looking at some of the full price games we've done in this episode, or even budget, twats like UFO. Eyeball is a refreshing reminder that there are people who do take their budget responsibilities seriously, and they will put something together that's reasonable and plausible and good. And it doesn't just have to be an Activision game from 1984. There's some coherency to releasing games like this. Yes, it's leaning on some Warhawk stuff, but I don't see that as a bad thing, because Warhawk wasn't a bad old budget game either. So fair play, nice game to end on. Actually, eyeball.
Game over.
Bogey. I'm going to try and capture it saying bogey at some point and see if I can record that. Just do that.
Do it
again.
See if you can fit it in just here.
Oh, because doesn't it go, oh no, at certain points? Oh no.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I'm sure it does. Yeah.
I wonder who that is. Actually, it's not Rob Hubbard. I know that.
I don't know. Maybe Chris would know.
So that could be Bobby Ball.
It could.
Rock on, Tommy. Rock on.
Oh, there we go. I think that's it. I think we need to finish.
That's it. I think we're done.
We've surrounded ourselves with balls in that episode. So we hope you've enjoyed that. Yeah, we hope you fully enjoyed that full-on bally episode.
By the way, facial cheek. You want on each facial cheek. I don't know if that's worse.
Right, split across your nose. It's just a horrible thought. It's a horrible thought. Just last thing to say, obviously, as we do, if you wish to support us, the podcast, and everything else, what we're doing and stuff, you can do that. If you wish to chuck us less than $5, you can head over to our Patreon. That's patreon.com/zapped to the past, and sign up there, get access to our Discord, extra episodes, ask us stuff. Yeah, things. There's really cool chats going on our Discord with people already on there, and it's just good fun. And you can come and have a laugh with us, and that's all good. If you fancy doing that, it helps us out, keeps the lights on and servers running. And Graham's hamster addiction, which is getting massively out of hand at the moment.
Yes, and my stock is dangerously low.
It says you need fresh ones. Fresh hamsters are coming on.
For my red liquid needs.
It does. He squeezes them. Actually, he doesn't. We love hamsters. That sounds horrible.
We do, but I do squeeze them.
Yeah, in a loving way.
Remember, half a pound of tuppenny rice, half a pound of treacle, and squeeze the hamster till it pops, and then you'll hear them squeakle.
Here comes the weasel to lick up all the hamster jam.
Squeeze all the squeezle juice.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yes.
Lovely.
You get tulips from them, don't you? From hamster jam.
Hamster jam. Oh, God. Right, that's it.
There you go. On that note, so we're going to leave. We'll be back next week. We've got loads more stuff. This is a triple treat episode, isn't it?
Triple thrash treat.
Triple thrash treat.
Triple treat.
So, yeah, we've got another 10 games. Is it 10? Let's have a look. How many's in next week? It's another 10 games coming from July 87 next week. What we got lined up? Well, we've got things like World Class Leaderboard. I'm not going to go from all, but World Class Leaderboard. We've got another football game on field football. There is the intriguing The Sydney Affair. The Great Escape. I know some people are a fan of The Great Escape. Eagles, not the band.
Everyone loves the Eagles.
Everybody loves the Eagles, and The Detective as well, along with others, and also film and TV as well. So that's all coming up next week. On that note,
it's been one of those episodes.
It has. It's been a bit of a strange one. It's getting late, so let's finish. So, as ever, I have been Adrian Mills.
I have been Graham Ruddings.
And you have been listening to Zapped to the Past. And we will see you again next week. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Zapped to the Past podcast. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into the world of Commodore 64 games, as well as the music, films and TV from around the 1980s, driven, of course, by the issue of Zap 64 magazine published at that time. We will return with a whole new batch of games and stuff to talk about next week. Until then, if you want to listen to or download previous episodes of Zap to the Past, and why wouldn't you, they can all be found on our website at zapptothepast.com, as well as being available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Deezer, Audible, Player FM, and, well, pretty much anywhere where we can upload them. By the way, we do always love to hear from our amazing listeners, so if you'd like to contact us about anything in the podcast or beyond, you can do so by emailing us at zapptothepast@gmail.com. We're also active on Twitter under @ZapTother, as well as Facebook, Instagram, and most social media platforms. Just search for Zap to the Past and you'll find us. Oh, and if you like the podcast and what we're doing, please do like, share, review, rate us. It really helps. Something, apparently. The Zap to the Past podcast is written and produced by Adrian Mills and Graham Ruddings, and recorded at Flaky Bits 2.0 Studio. All opinions expressed are those of the writers, and while we indeed love Zap 64 magazine, the Zap to the Past podcast is not affiliated with it in any way. Stay safe, see you next time, and remember, we play these games so you don't have to.